Legions of youths were ripped from reality and dropped into a bizarre realm. A system screen blinked into existence before them. It commanded they brace for Chapter 1's trial. Only 4 minutes and 21 seconds remained before the first wave of monsters struck. Amidst the chaos, a long-haired youth was singled out by a cryptic treasure chest, materializing right in front of him. With this divine relic's power, can he survive the impending slaughter? To understand his fate, we have to look back. Rewind 24 hours to Jong Sun trapped in a surreal dimension of grinding gears and colossal clockwork machinery. A chime resonated through the void. Player Jong Sun, your time has expired. As the voice died, a girl bathed in celestial radiance appeared. She extended a glowing hand, beckoning him toward an unknown destiny. But this epic journey actually begins elsewhere. Behold, the Temple of 10,000 Demons. Within the Demon of Greed commanded legions to forge a sanctuary of pure legendary gold. Born from Hell Mountain, this temple once crowned the tower's peak before the Third Great War of Gods and Demons shattered everything. Every trace of demonic filth, including the legendary temple itself, was purged and hurled down from the tower's summit. Following their crushing defeat, the survivors hoped for a fleeting moment of tranquility. Instead, a mysterious outsider launched a devastating assault, obliterating the realm and scattering the celestial constellations like dust. Wielding might that dwarfed the gods, these invaders systematically executed every player who had been stripped of their power. With every player erased, the tower stands on the brink of extinction. Now, the weight of humanity's survival rests solely on Jong Sunday. Incredible, the demon temple plummeted to the 92nd floor. This miracle might be the game changer we desperately need. Mammon's treasure is hidden here. If I seize it, I can rewind time itself, Jong Sun realized as fate beckoned. He shoved the heavy doors open, triggering a sudden system alert. Player Jong Sun has breached the Temple of 10,000 Demons. Unprecedented. A mortal has infiltrated the demonic sanctuary. You have achieved a feat of historic proportions. You have trespassed into the divine domain as a mere human. Your glory is absolute, but Jong Sun ignored the spam. He exhaled sharply, finally relaxing his tense shoulders. I'm actually here, so this is the infamous den of demons. His eyes sharpened as he scanned the horizon. A gargantuan chamber shimmering with the blinding luster of gold stretched before him. But peace was short-lived. The treasury shook with violent tremors and ominous cracks, spiderwebbed across the ceiling. Panic surged through him. Is that the target I have got to move? He muttered, his face twisting in a grimace. He instantly triggered his ultimate skill, Journey's Milestone, the absolute pinnacle of high-tier exploration and pathfinding abilities. Combined with Heroic Leap, this was his lifeline. Without it, finding this temple or even surviving this long would have been impossible. Guide me to the gold, he whispered. Suddenly, a golden needle spun wildly before locking onto a direction. He sprinted in pursuit. A wall. Why is it pointing there? Jong Sun wondered, confused by the needle's weird trajectory. It indicated a dusty candle sconce. With zero time to waste, our protagonist lunged forward and gripped the cold metal. He yanked it down hard. Instantly, the stone wall groaned and slid open, unveiling a hidden corridor into the dark. Descending the stairs, he eventually stood before a colossal, gilded gateway. Staring at the massive door, he breathed a quiet thought. This is it, Mammon's vault. I cannot believe I actually owe that jerk Felix a thanks. The thought still irritates me. Recalling that betrayal makes my blood boil. As the anger flared, sharp flashes of memory flooded his mind. A shady man in monk's robes tossed a rusted key at Jong Sun's feet, treating him like a common beggar. Take it. Take this as your fee. This key, well, it is not like I have got any actual cash for you anyway. Jong Sun was not having it and immediately fired back. This is a total breach of our agreement. Stop scamming me, or I am out. But Felix and his goons just erupted into mocking, arrogant laughter at his threats. They did not give a damn. Tear up that contract, and we will make sure you never find work as an adventurer again. Those bastards. At the time, I had zero clue about the key's value and simply took it as my hard-earned payment. He gave a dry laugh before sliding the key into the mechanism. Simultaneously, a system prompt flickered to life. Hidden property of the artifact unlocked Mammon's golden key, a divine tool granting passage into the Vault of Greed. Welcome to the Treasury of Greed. As the seals broke, an ocean of unimaginable riches flooded Jong Sun's vision. Mountains of gold and silver stretched into the distance. Advancing further, he spotted legendary relics stacked like common trash. The Cursed Blade, Tearfing, an elite heavenly demon manual, and even a 10th Circle ancient magic grimoire, all just sitting there. No way. A literal dragon's heart. How did anyone gather this much insane loot? Jong Sun's mind was absolutely reeling. The ground shook violently, urging him to move faster. It looks like the exit is already sealing shut. Time's running out. Take me to the prize, Jong Sun barked at the spinning compass needle. It pulsed with light. Guided by fate, he bolted toward a massive mountain of shimmering gold. No way. Is this it? He lunged into the sea of coins, digging frantically through the riches. His fingers brushed cold glass. He yanked it out the hourglass. He finally found it. The Hourglass of Kronos, a divine relic forged by the legendary god of time himself. It held the power to rewind one's own history, the very thing Jung Sun was hunting for, the ultimate reset button. But this god-tier item came with a massive, dangerous catch. Only the user's personal clock would reset. If I go back, if I stop the war between gods and demons, and scale the tower myself, I can prevent the total collapse. Action followed thought. He flipped the glass and a blinding divine radiance erupted instantly. Lightning arced through the air, the relic activated, tearing through the tower's very timeline. The countdown began. 9 minutes and 58 seconds remain until the last grain of sand falls. I'll do whatever it takes to rewrite this nightmare, Jung Sun swore, his heart pounding. Boom! A thunderous explosion rocked the chamber, and the ceiling began to crumble above him. A mass of eye-covered tentacles tore through the stone, lunging straight for Jung Sun's throat. He rolled just in time. Gasping, he finally got a clear look at his grotesque attacker. It was pure nightmare fuel, a writhing knot of snakes sprouting thousands of blinking wet eyes. Catching his scent, the serpents struck simultaneously, their maws wide and hungry for his flesh. He scrambled back, desperate for an edge. Luckily, this wasn't just any regular treasure pile. This was an armory of the gods, overflowing with legendary divine weapons and ancient steel. His eyes sparked. He snatched a nearby spear, Astrope Zeus's very own bolt of lightning. Can't take it with me, so I might as well enjoy the fireworks, he grinned. He gripped the shaft, muscles tensing, and launched it at the encroaching mass of snakes. Lightning exploded on contact. The grotesque beast shrieked, twitching under the high-voltage divine shock. Roaring in agony, it lashed out. A heavy tentacle slammed into him, sending him flying backward. Tougher than he looks, he groaned. Nearby, a massive broadsword erupted in ferocious, hellish flames. Livatine, the blade of destruction. With these god-tier toys, even an outsider would bleed out. The legendary sword of Surtur, a weapon built to reduce the entire world to ash. He seized the hilt and charged a blur of speed, heading straight for the massive monster. Weaving through the snapping maws, he closed the gap and swung with everything he had. The impact was nuclear. The explosion stripped away the creature's disguise, revealing its true form. So that's what's underneath, he thought. The smoke cleared to show the real, hideous beast. A hairless, mutated boar with writhing tentacles. A pig. You have got to be kidding me. He needed a finisher. Scouring the gold again, his eyes locked onto a legendary glowing pike. Bryonak, the Spear of Light. Lug's ultimate weapon, capable of piercing through any defense imaginable. Try tanking this, he roared, unleashing a divine throw that practically broke the sound barrier. The spear became a streak of light, skewering the boar clean from snout to tail. Before the beast could even squeal, it was vaporized by the overwhelming divine equipment power. A system alert flashed. You are the first player to slay an outsider, achievement unlocked. The hourglass hummed. Suddenly, the treasury of greed began to groan and collapse around him. Holding the golden key, the system recognized Jung Sun as the new sovereign of greed. The old power was gone. The essence of greed chose its new master, Jung Sunday. Causality inverted. His levels, stats, and hard-earned skills began to evaporate into the void. Tower progress reset. Suddenly, the cave vanished, replaced by a lush, mysterious green forest. A crowd was already forming nearby. Strangely, everyone looked completely lost and confused. I had no clue why I was here. One moment I was at the office, the next this. Panic started rippling through the confused crowd. Suddenly, a holographic interface flickered to life before our stunned eyes. Welcome to the tutorial. The group fell into a daze, scratching their heads. A tutorial? Is this some kind of twisted game? Amidst the growing hysteria, one young man stood perfectly still, his cold gaze scanning the perimeter. This was our protagonist, Yong Sehun. Staring at the hauntingly familiar landscape, he realized the impossible truth. Did I actually regress to the past? What is this tutorial nonsense? Someone explain this. How are we supposed to survive? We're all in the same boat here, someone barked back. But Sehun, he'd already endured this nightmare once before. He felt zero shock. The chaos was identical to last time. I need to distance myself from these ticking time bombs. Sehun drifted toward the edge of the crowd, lost in thought. But right then, fate intervened. A frantic hand gripped his arm. Do you know what's happening? Why am I trapped in this hellhole? Sehun turned and met a face he remembered all too well. This guy. In the original timeline, he was slaughtered like an animal, throat ripped wide open. Pushing the grim memory aside, Sehun spoke with forced calm. Just stay cool. How we were kidnapped without warning. Is this some sick prank show or what? As the man spiraled into theories, Sehun found his own attempts at comfort almost laughable. Words are useless right now. Nobody listens until the blood starts spilling. Once the monsters arrive, they'll shut up. Right on cue, a fresh system notification pinged in the air. Tutorial, Chapter 1, Adaptation. First monster wave approaching in 4 minutes and 21 seconds. Terror gripped the crowd like a physical weight. A monster wave. What the hell? While the mob panicked, Sehun stayed laser-focused. He pulled up his stats. Everything mirrored the past. Almost. This was the current state of Yong Se-hun. Name Yong Se-hun, Level 1, Title None, Strength 7, Agility 9, Stamina 8, Intellect 12. Other stats 0. Unique skills, Power of Greed, and Power of Gluttony. Se-hun's brow furrowed. In my previous life, I didn't realize how pathetic these starting stats actually were. Forget the numbers. What are these new skills? He centered his focus on the Unique Abilities tab. Possessing 2 unique powers was unheard of. Then memories of the final system alerts before his regression flooded back. Those messages weren't a hallucination. That means I can actually wield that forbidden power right now. Without a second thought, Se-hun focused his mind. In an instant, a miniature gilded treasure chest materialized. It levitated in his palm. Greed's treasure has been opened. Reward, Breath of the Red Dragon. Next up, Mjolnir, the legendary hammer of Thor. And the forbidden heavenly demon control art. The ultimate secret technique of the demonic cult. With an arsenal like this from day one, an overwhelming surge of confidence washed over Se-hun. With these mythic powers in my grasp, I'll finally have the strength to crush those otherworldly invaders. Just as the thought crossed his mind, the countdown hit 0. A blood-red notification flared. Adaptation phase starting. The first monster wave begins now. Prove your worth or die. The crowd erupted in madness. It's starting. What do we do? Hysteria peaked as a pack of shadow wolves prowled out from the tree line, eyes glowing with hunger. Wolves, that's the wave. Sensing their prey's crippling fear, the beast's bloodlust reached a fever pitch. They lunged a snarling blur of fur and fangs. There's way too many of them. This is a slaughter. The group scrambled in a desperate retreat, but they hadn't fled 5 steps before their path vanished. A second pack emerged from the shadows, sealing them in a deadly pincer formation. Trapped. No exit. Faces drained of all color as the reality of their impending doom set in. Are we really going to die here? If you want to keep breathing, pick up a weapon, Se-hun commanded icily. All eyes snapped to him. A salaryman lunged forward, seizing Se-hun's collar in a frantic, trembling grip. Are you insane? How are we supposed to fight those beasts barehanded? Do you have a death wish? You sound like you actually have a strategy, a burly man named Kang Han Cheol interjected solemnly. Se-hun adjusted his collar with chilling composure, giving a slight confident nod to the giant. Simple. I'll handle the heavy lifting. You guys just focus on defense. Got it, Han Cheol stared back. He questioned if taking on that savage pack single-handedly was even possible. Oblivious to those doubts, Jong-soo locked in. Time to unleash this new strength. Summoning the Treasury of Greed, he pulled out a legendary manual, the Ten-set Tan Tui. It is a fundamental Shaolin technique centered on devastating kicks. Manual in hand, Jong-soo activated the skill instantly. No time to waste. The lead wolf lunged jaws, snapping, hungry for a piece of our hero. Rejecting the beast's advances, Jong-soo pivoted and unleashed the Tan Tui's first form. His boot slammed into the wolf's ribs, sending the creature screaming through the air. The pack froze, watching their comrade tumble before erupting into a bloodthirsty chorus. They swarmed him. But Jong-soo didn't flinch. He charged headfirst into the chaos. Leaping high, he executed a violent mid-air spin, driving his heel downward. The earth shattered. A massive shockwave blasted the remaining wolves back into the dirt. From the sidelines, the terrified civilians watched in awe. This felt like a superhero movie. Who is this guy? Taking down monsters with his bare hands is insane. Han Cheol finally realized the source of Jong-soo's absolute confidence. The man was a beast. He's crazy strong. There's no way he's fighting this whole pack without a hidden trump card. Watching him fight unarmed, it's sparking something fierce deep inside my own soul. It is not panic, it is something else. My focus is slipping, Han Cheol hissed. He parried a wolf's bite, then grabbed its skull and slammed it into the pavement. The impact left a massive crater. Man, he just wrecked that thing with 0 weapons. The crowd gasped, but as their eyes met, a spark of defiance began to ignite. With strength like that, we might survive this. We still have the numbers. Quick, grab anything. We need weapons now. The survivors rallied together. Han Cheol kept his eyes glued to Jong-soo's movements. His form was perfect. He lacks brute force, but his precision is terrifying. His style is totally different from mine. I need to fight beside him. Meanwhile, Jong-soo stood amidst the pile of defeated beasts. The pack lay broken on the ground, but Jong-soo was gasping for air. It is almost over. My current body is way too frail. Am I reaching my limit already? Suddenly, the hair on his neck stood up. A heavy gaze was pinned on him. An overwhelming presence filled the air, and then the system interface flickered into existence. The Crow constellation is observing you. A constellation, the Crow. That is Mammon, the true master of the treasury. The god of greed is watching. Did he catch me? If he realizes I am looting his vault without a permit, I am dead. Should I hide? Theft from a deity usually ends in a one-way trip to hell. I fought so hard to reincarnate. Is it all going to end because of this? Jong-soo panicked. And just as he feared, the greedy deity began to connect the dots. System alert. The Crow constellation has detected traces of distorted causality. The Crow nods, recognizing the hourglass's presence. The constellation is smiling. The suffocating pressure vanished instantly, leaving Jiangsu drenched in sweat but alive. But the anxiety remained. He knows I used the hourglass, yet he is doing nothing. Did he see this coming? It feels like he is giving me a free pass for now. If that is the case, let us keep going. Time for the next power test. Like a kid with a dangerous new toy, Jiangsu reached out his hand toward the carnage. Power of gluttony, he roared, but the air stayed still. The conditions were not met. System target must be designated. He looked at the wolf corpses, wondering if this would work. One way to find out. Whispering a dark command, he unleashed the ravenous hunger of gluttony upon the wolf pack. Suddenly the air turned cold, as abyssal shadows erupted from his limb, twisting like venomous vipers. These obsidian serpents lunged forward, sinking their fangs deep and shredding the beast with blinding ferocity. Within seconds, every shard of bone was devoured, dragged into the void, and reclaimed by their master. Zhang Xiol recoiled, his heart racing at the grotesque display. What kind of nightmare did I just summon? It left absolutely nothing behind. Ignoring his shock, the darkness finished consuming the predator's remains entirely. A holographic alert flashed, prey consumed. Nutrients assimilated. Strength attribute has risen by 1 point. Agility up by 2. His jaw dropped as the shadowy entities let out a satisfied, eerie burp. This is insane. Scavenging corpses actually boosts my stats. If I can master this ability, I will become an unstoppable beast. But just as he smirked, a chilling realization hit him. Hold on. If Mammon was greed, then this power must belong to Beelzebub, the Lord of Flies. I got careless in the heat of the moment. Before he could process the danger, a powerful gaze locked onto him. The Starving Prince constellation has focused its attention on you. The entity pauses, its eternal feast appearing intrigued. Cold sweat poured down Zhang Xiol's terrified face. This isn't like before. I escaped Mammon through luck, but Beelzebub is a true titan of hell. Fate won't save me twice. Anxiety gnawed at him until another system prompt flickered to life. The Starving Prince begins to speak, but changes his mind to cram even more flesh down. Zhang Xiol stared, completely baffled. One of the most feared beings in existence is actually losing its mind over a snack. Is his hunger truly bottomless? This might be the opening I need. If he wants a feast, I'll give him a banquet. Channeling the gluttony skill once more, he charged the survivors, devouring the pack to satisfy the demon's insatiable, frantic delight. The Starving Prince roars with joy at the sudden buffet. Seeing the demon's ecstatic reaction, Zhang Xiol sighed in relief. Crisis averted. Success. Strength has increased by 0.1. Agility up by 0.5. The gains are diminishing, but stat grinding isn't the priority. He kept his focus sharp, glancing toward the heavens to address the cosmic entity directly. Still hungry, aren't you? He challenged. The response from the abyss was immediate. Drooling with anticipation, the prince claims that was merely a snack. A sly grin crossed Zhang Xiol's face. Classic gluttony. That concludes our little session, or should I say our first successful deal. The clock ticked forward, thanks to the sheer carnage, and Zhang Xiol's defensive wall. The wolf pack was crippled, allowing the group to mop up the remaining stragglers easily. Victory is ours, the survivors shouted, as another system announcement echoed in their minds. Tutorial Chapter 1, Adaptation. Wave 1 cleared. All survivors will now receive their rewards. 50 points awarded. Surveying the area, Zhang Xiol noted that everyone had managed to survive. Not a single drop of blood from the allies. This is a massive change from the original timeline. Did my overwhelming kill count rewrite history? It seems I've already shifted the balance of power. Suddenly, the system processed the battle data, unveiling the contribution rankings for all to see. Rank 1, Zhang Xiol with 220 points. Rank 2, Kang Han Chol at 80. Rank 3, Josiah with 40. Zhang Xiol pondered the results with a satisfied expression. A solid lead. In this game, your rank determines the legendary loot you'll eventually unlock. Better scores mean better sponsors. Constellations only watch the brightest stars in the arena. First place is non-negotiable. But even with this win, my lack of gear is glaring. My base stats are still trash compared to elite hunters. Raw power has its limits. I require a weapon to bridge this gap. However, finding quality steel is the challenge. This area is a wasteland for gear. I'll have to grind levels in the deep woods. I need artifacts. Once my level rises, higher tier equipment will finally be within my reach. Driven by the riches of Mammon's vault, Yongsun wasted no time and sprinted toward the looming forest ahead. However, right at that moment, a sharp female voice cut through the air. Hey, hold on. Where do you think you're going all by yourself? Yongsun froze for a second before turning toward the source. That voice. It sounded incredibly familiar, striking a chord in his memory. Wait, could it really be her? He wondered. Before his regression, she was a legend known as the Tornado. He didn't remember every face from his past life, but Josiah was impossible to forget. She was a future superstar of the tower's upper floors. Alongside Kang Han-chol, she was destined to become one of the absolute top-tier rankers, Young-sun recalled. Meanwhile, Josiah rushed over to him, her face full of concern. "Why are you wandering off alone? Don't be so reckless. Once the tutorial begins, every single second is worth its weight in gold. I don't have the patience or the energy to babysit people right now." Young-sun groaned inwardly. When Josiah realized he was ignoring her, she snapped again. "Hey, are you even listening to me?" Snapping back to reality, Young-sun gave a cold shrug. "I'm just scouting the perimeter. Sitting around here like a duck won't save us." Josiah shook her head, trying to talk some sense into him. "Instead of acting like a lone wolf, we should group up and strategize for the next monster wave. Why don't we just join the others and talk it out? And will having a little chat session actually change our fate?" Young-sun asked with a skeptical look. "Of course it will. At the very least, it'll keep people from spiraling into a panic," Josiah argued. But Young-sun was already completely over it. "I don't have time for this nonsense. It's not like I can explain the future to her," he thought, letting out a heavy sigh. "And how exactly will less anxiety help when the second wave hits? We'll all just end up running for our lives again anyway. Even so, we have no clue when those wolves will strike. Going out there solo is a death wish," Josiah screamed. But right then, the system provided the answer as a glowing notification flashed before everyone's eyes. Tutorial, Chapter 1. Adaptation. Time remaining until the second monster wave, 2 hours and 57 minutes. Young-sun began to mumble, quickly doing the math in his head. 3 hours, that's all the time I've got left. He wasn't about to waste another second, so he turned to leave. He threw one last instruction over his shoulder to the girl. "Go back. From here on out, you'd be better off keeping your eyes glued to the system alerts. You've got nothing better to do while you wait anyway. Join your little meeting or whatever." With that, Young-sun vanished into the trees. Josiah was left standing there, her eyes wide with total disbelief. "Wait, what just happened?" she muttered, completely stunned. "Actually, you should use that time to find a sturdy branch or something," Young-sun added. The cryptic advice left Josiah totally baffled. Oblivious to her shock, Young-sun moved deep into the woods and began a systematic slaughter of an entire wolf pack. They were crawling all over the brush just inside the forest. There were so many of them that even our hero was a bit taken aback. "Why are there so many? Well, this is the perfect chance to grind my stats." Grinning Young-sun activated the power of gluttony. He began absorbing the wolves, using their essence to skyrocket his power. However, even a god-tier skill has its limits. A system message popped up. "You have devoured a brown wolf. Nutrients can no longer be extracted from the same species. The Starving Prince constellation is officially bored of this meat." Still gnawing on a wolf bone, Young-sun saw the alert and could only sigh. Done already, he really is the demon of greed. Talk about a picky eater. "This wolf meat clearly isn't high-quality monster material," he muttered. "Just hold on a second. I'll find you a gourmet meal soon, all right? Just give me a moment." Young-sun nodded, which caught the Starving Prince's attention. The constellation inhaled the entire ribcage, his eyes glowing with hunger. To please that glutton, Young-sun had to keep moving and find a new target. "Or maybe I should experiment a bit," he mused, opening the treasury of greed. From the golden rift, he pulled out a shimmering, ethereal blade. This was Gram, the legendary sword of the Chosen One, the very weapon Sigurd used to slay the dragon Fafnir. In this realm, these treasures could only be manifested as intangible energy. Their physical forms were gone, leaving only their raw power behind. It should have been mine. What a total waste. But it can't be helped. If I can channel this divine power into a decent vessel, I'll practically have a legendary sword. Young-sun focused his mind, projecting the lethal shadow of Gram onto a simple piece of wood in his hand. But life is never that simple. The moment the legendary energy began to fuse with the wood, the branch disintegrated into ash, instantly shattering his hopes for an easy gear upgrade. Young-sun's dream of a god-tier item vanished in a heartbeat. Damn it. The vessel couldn't handle the output of a legend. This meant the power didn't just wreck objects, it was a danger to his own body too. I need to adapt, and fast. My current cultivation is trash. If I dared to use a high-tier skill like Fire Dragon's Breath, I'd literally incinerate into ash. My body would crumble like a dry twig. Plus this greed ability. It's a VIP-only power strictly exclusive to me. I tested if others could tap into this energy using some junk on a wolf, but it was a total bust. Bottom line, my current arsenal is looking pretty pathetic, and my options are running thin. I've got to grind and buff my stats until I can actually wield the legendary gear. No shortcuts here. Priority 1, find a decent blade. Jang Seol pushed deeper into the woods, but finding elite loot is never a walk in the park. Not even for our main character. Despite scouring this massive forest, he was coming up empty-handed. Man, I'd kill for a guide right now. Finding treasures used to be a breeze, now it's just a massive headache. But maybe it's time to play a wild card. Jang Seol reached into the treasury of greed and pulled out a special relic. The hyena snout, a low-rank monster item. It's basically a cheat code for tracking prey using a god-tier sense of smell. System alert. The snout has synchronized. A ghostly hyena silhouette merged with Zhang Xiol instantly, granting him an inhumanly keen nose. With these upgraded senses, Zhang Xiol finally caught the scent he was hunting for. Found it. The sharp metallic tang of rust was thick in the air. He didn't waste a second and bolted toward the source. Meanwhile, the greedy king was having a literal meltdown from hunger and started spamming alerts. The starving prince constellation began whining like a toddler, complaining his stomach was practically touching his spine. With his patron on the verge of starving, Zhang Xiol shifted into high gear. This feels less like a pact and more like raising a pig, he grumbled to himself. But then a serious complication slammed into his plans. The target was way further than he estimated. He was sprinting full tilt, yet the distance barely seemed to close. My lungs are burning, but the scent is definitely coming from this way. Just as he thought that, Zhang Xiol's expression went stone cold. A foul, unfamiliar odor suddenly cut through the air. Wait, this isn't rust. It's a gray wolf. Zhang Xiol's heart skipped as he realized. A massive predator had silently stalked him from the shadows. The beast had him pinned from the very start. It tracked me just like I tracked the treasure. In my past life, I spent all my time running. This time, the ending changes. Zhang Xiol stood his ground, internal energy surging through his veins like a storm. Across the clearing, the gray wolf's patience finally snapped. Its hunger was visible in its glowing, murderous eyes. Seeing that Zhang Xiol wasn't flinching or fleeing, the beast lunged, its jaws aimed straight for his leg. But our boy is a veteran. Using his combat instincts, he pivoted just in time to dodge the lethal snap. One exchange was all it took to realize this wasn't some weak brown wolf. This thing was faster, bigger, and deadlier. This is a natural-born killer. It's aiming for the jugular to end me in a single bloody second. Thank God for the 10-step retreat. Without that technique, I'd be a pile of shredded meat right now. He cursed inwardly. The wolf didn't miss a beat, launching another savage assault before Zhang Xiol could even breathe, giving him zero recovery time. Unfortunately for the beast, Zhang Xiol's mental reflexes were still elite. He danced around the attack again, finding a tiny opening to deliver a heavy counterkick. He expected the wolf to go flying, but it didn't even budge. Instead, a wave of recoil slammed back into him. Zhang Xiol scrambled back to reset his distance, his heart hammering against his ribs. His right leg was vibrating uncontrollably from the impact. Are my stats really this trash? I landed a clean hit. Damn it, how is it this tanky? He gritted his teeth, barely dodging another snap of those jaws. I've got the speed, but my raw power isn't enough to pierce this monster's defense. This is getting bad. What's the move? The odds are stacking against me. As he searched for an opening, Zhang Xiol's eyes grew desperate. Then things went from bad to worse. A pack of brown wolves charged in to flank him. Seriously, you bottom feeders are still here. If I don't find a way out now, I'm wolf bait. Zhang Xiol backed away slowly, looking for an exit. But fate wasn't done with him yet. Right in that moment, as if the heavens heard his plea, a miracle appeared in the dirt. A rusty sword was embedded in the ground waiting for a master. It looked like ancient junk, but the edge carried a deadly cold gleam. Zhang Xiol lunged for the hilt and unleashed a desperate strike, cleaving that charging brown wolf clean in two, just as expected. This blade is easily the ultimate find for this early stage. Still, Zhang Sehun couldn't help but wonder if this weapon hid a deeper, more lethal secret. Even the constellation Fuo eyed the blade with a cryptic look. Ignoring the celestial gaze, our hero pressed on. Sehun continued his relentless assault. With this legendary steel in hand, the momentum was his. There was no turning back now. Ending this before its next strike, he vowed. Witnessing Sehun's explosive surge in power, the gray wolf froze in its tracks. It glared with predatory caution, no longer daring to rush in like a mindless beast. Seizing the opening, Sehun accessed his treasure of greed. He instantly selected a rare skill book, the prestigious Hamel family swordsmanship technique. This was their ultimate secret, an elite blade style, reserved strictly for the family's true bloodline heirs. Upon activation, a spectral aura wrapped around him as the knowledge fused with his soul. The game has changed, he whispered. The wolf unleashed a bone-chilling howl, psyching itself up for one final desperate charge. But Sehun stood his ground. As the beast lunged, he tightened his grip and drove the steel directly into its snarling maw. The alpha's jagged teeth clamped onto the weathered blade, forcing a brutal high-stakes deadlock between man and monster. Exactly as planned. Channeling raw power into his forearms, Sehun violently ripped the sword free from the wolf's bloody jaws. He unleashed a storm of steel. Before the beast could blink, countless slashes carved through its thick hide. The massive predator was completely overwhelmed. Checkmate, Sehun mused as the gray wolf took the full brunt of his fury. The alpha never even touched him. Instead, it was reduced to a mangled mess shredded by a barrage of strikes. Though drenched in its own gore, the beast's killing intent remained. But the damage was clearly taking its toll. No surprise there, this style built an empire from the shadows. Ordinary, not even close. Finish line, Sehun thought, blitzing forward. The wolf snapped its jaws in a final act of defiance, unaware that it had just sealed its own fate. Sehun simply raised his blade with cold, surgical precision and plunged it deep into the creature's throat. The wolf shrieked in agony, desperately trying to dislodge the cold steel. Game over. The light faded from its eyes as the boss slumped over, dying under Sehun's stone-cold smirk. Right on cue, the system chimed with a glorious alert. You have vanquished the Wolf Forest boss. Graveguarding Wolf defeated. Level up. Gained 500 merit points and the rare Grey Wolf skin. But Sehun wasn't just here for the kill. He had a calculated secondary objective for this forest raid. Farming merit points was the priority. You can earn them through combat heroics, like surviving the tutorial waves. Alternatively, hunting down elite solo monsters works too. But then there's the most controversial method, slaying other players. As the tutorial reaches its climax, the peace will shatter, and a bloody free-for-all will erupt. PvP is the ultimate shortcut to the top. Sehun plotted, his eyes gleaming with ambition. Activating gluttony, he devoured the carcass. Raw boss nutrients flowed through his veins, fueling his evolution. Graveguarding Wolf consumed, stats increased 3 strength, 5 agility, and 2 stamina gained. Sehun kept a poker face, but internally, he was vibrating with excitement at the massive stat boost. Boss kills are the ultimate cheat code. Even the starving prince seemed satisfied with this feast. The system confirmed it. Beelzebub himself was impressed. Now for the real prizes. Time to inspect the loot, he muttered quickly, sifting through his new spoils of war. Let's check the specs. First up, the Sword of a Forgotten Hero. Type Longsword, rank D. A relic of a lost legend weathered by the ages. Unique ability Poison. It cripples enemy regeneration. Plus, Hero's Trace grants a 10% damage buff against all monsters. Grey Wolf Skin. Type Cloak, rank D. The pelt of the alpha that once dominated these woods. Its predatory aura remains intact. Special ability Authority. This skill buffs allies while terrifying enemies. Blessing of the Wind also boosts movement speed by 5%. Sehun grinned. With potential like this, I can definitely refine these into rank D plus gear. Even Beelzebub, watching from the heavens, appeared to give this blade his dark seal of approval. The starving prince gave it a lukewarm glance, admitting it wasn't total garbage. High praise from him. Classic, greedy demon vibes. With the loot secured, Sehun wondered how long until the next wave hits. Am I running out of time? The thought raced through his mind as he clocked the countdown for the second assault. Barely 12 minutes remained. Jongseon gritted his teeth and forced his pace to quicken. Gotta regroup before the real chaos breaks out. Tutorial Chapter 1. Adaptation. The second monster wave is commencing. Repel the horde and prove your survival instincts. While the system notification blared, Jongseon was casually strolling through the dense shadows of the forest. The slaughter started right as I arrived. He'd promised Joseph he'd return, but time was slipping away. Honestly, he didn't really care. This was the perfect moment to scout for any useless dead weight. Identifying the freeloaders early was key. Our protagonist calmly began his walk back toward the trembling group. This wave brought a stampede of savage wild boars. What are you doing? Stand your ground, cowards? First wolves, now these tusk demons. And so it begins, Jongseon whispered to himself. Across the blood-soaked battlefield, a loud-mouthed bald man screamed, "Don't just dodge, tank the hits." The coward was actually cowering behind a terrified youth, using him as a living shield. The blonde-haired young man's hands shook so violently he couldn't even keep his staff steady. I'm trying," he stammered. Before he could finish, the bald man's heavy boot connected with his spine. He kicked the boy directly into the fray. "If you want to keep your life, start fighting like you mean it." The old man barked threats, completely oblivious to his own hypocrisy. Nearby, Jongseon activated his stalking bush skill. Lurking in the shadows, he witnessed the pathetic display. It didn't surprise him in the slightest. Weaklings like that are everywhere. I'm struggling to survive, but how are the others holding up? He scanned the area. Small groups were actually coordinating, teaming up to isolate and butcher the boars. They were handling the pressure better than expected, especially Ju So-ah and Kang Han Cheol. Even with bottom-tier gear, their potential was undeniable. All right, time for my grand entrance. Gripping his blade, Jongseon stood tall, stepping onto the stage like a true main character. Meanwhile, Ju So-ah was reaching her limit as the relentless combat drained her stamina. Her breath came in ragged, burning gasps. If she lost focus for even a second, she was dead. These monsters were leagues above the wolves. Suddenly, a massive wild boar locked its sights on her. With a blood-curdling roar, it lunged. She barely managed to roll aside, her heart hammering against her ribs. "They just keep coming," she hissed, only to realize blood was soaking through 2 fresh wounds on her thigh. When did I get hit? Fear began to cloud her judgment as her vision blurred with exhaustion. Her expression twisted with dread. Before she could reset her stance, the boar pivoted for another lethal charge. With no other options, Ju So-ah grabbed a nearby club, bracing for the inevitable impact. "Just a little longer. I just need to hold out for 1 more minute," she prayed. But the beast never reached her. A cold blade whistled through the air, striking from the shadows. The monster was instantly cleaved in two. The one who delivered the blow, none other than Jongseon. Ju So-ah looked like she wanted to cry out in relief, but Jongseon silenced her with a sharp look. Focus on the threats in front of us, he commanded, pointing his bloodied sword toward the next wave. Three boars coordinated a pack attack and charged. Jongseon quickly reached into his hoard of greed. He pulled out a high-grade orc tendon, a relic famous for its legendary strength and endurance. The item pulsed with a resilient life force, fusing its monstrous energy directly into his own body. Let's see if my frame can handle this surge. The power coursing through him was intoxicating. The fastest boar closed the gap, but Jongseon vanished, leaping high into the air. He soared 10 meters up before crashing down his blade, aimed with devastating momentum. The steel buried itself deep, silencing the boar's scream forever. He didn't stop there. With a blur of motion, he danced through the remaining monsters, ending them all in mere seconds. Ju So-ah and Kang Han-chol stood frozen in utter shock. Even Jongseon was taken aback. Was that the power of the orc tendon? His strength was immense, yet perfectly controlled. He nodded, satisfied. Seeing Jongseon's insane combat skills, the man sidled up with a greasy smile and a pat on the shoulder. Man, you're a total beast. You're leagues above these other useless losers. How about it? Want to be my personal bodyguard? I'm the CEO of Togen Corporation, surely you've heard the name. Get me out of here and I'll make you filthy rich. Just name your price. Across from him, Jongseon remained stone-faced, completely unfazed by the tycoon's bragging. Panic flared, causing the old man's bald head to glisten with sweat. He scrambled to sweeten the deal. Look, I'll even give you a department head position. That's a far better gig than any other top-tier firm would ever offer. Finally, Jongseon's eyes flickered with interest. Now that sounds like a solid trade, he murmured, his voice laced with a hint of curiosity. That single spark was enough to make the bald man beam with triumph. Haha, I knew you had a head for business. Just keep me safe and your future is golden. But before he could even finish his pitch, Jongseon cut him off. The words that followed left the man frozen in total confusion. Actually, I was just looking for a meat shield. A meat shield. What did you just say? He stammered in a panic. Without a word of explanation, Jongseon wound up and launched a brutal kick. The man spiraled through the air, a pathetic end for a fool who couldn't read the room. Yet, incredibly, another guy tried to threaten him. What the hell are you doing, you psycho? Have you lost your mind? Jongseon just smirked. Since you're so tough, why don't you handle those four yourself? He chuckled darkly. Took you long enough to realize the situation. The realization of his doom finally hit the fat man, but unfortunately for him, the clock had already run out. In an instant, 4 massive wild boars swarmed him, tossing the old man around like a literal ragdoll. Nearby, the rest of the survivors watched the cold-blooded display in stunned, terrified silence. High above, the constellation mistress of the abyss watched the chaos with a wicked, amused grin. Meanwhile, the famished prince whined incessantly, demanding more prey. Jongseon ignored the divine noise. Eventually, through desperate teamwork, the group managed to slaughter the remaining boars. First tutorial chapter cleared. Wave 2 of the attack is complete. All participants gain 50 points. Calculating individual impact now. First place Jongseon, 1,080 points. Second place Kang Han-chol, 180 points. Third place Ju So-ah, 100 points. You've consumed a brown wild boar, absorbing its essence now. Strength has increased by 1 point and stamina by 2 points. The constellation. Famished prince began devouring the remains with pure gluttony. Ignoring that starving demon, Jongseon eyed the carcasses. Time to prep. I'll save one for the road. Before my regression, predator meat was the only thing worth eating. The rust on this blade is a mess, but I can't be picky right now. As he focused on the task, he began using his sword to butcher the beast. Suddenly, a girl stepped forward, offering to help. Excuse me, I used to run a restaurant, so I'm actually pretty handy with a blade. A professional chef. That would definitely save him the trouble. Jongseon nodded, handing over the sword. Her face lit up with excitement. Leave it to me. Seeing her, others finally shook off their fear and stepped up. I'll hunt for firewood. I'll handle the campsite. We need to find a water source. They finally started acting like a team, until one guy realized a major flaw. Wait, how do we actually start the fire? Oh man, I totally forgot about that, the blonde guy admitted sheepishly. In this situation, making fire was no easy feat. Seeing no other choice, Jongseon intervened. He pulled out a rare item called Chasa's Ember. This was a fragment of a low-level fire spirit. It was tiny, but packed with supernatural energy. The fire's on me, Jongseon said, a flickering spirit flame dancing atop his palm. With the flames provided, everyone gathered to roast the boar. Soon, a mouth-watering aroma filled the air. It was enough to drive even a greedy god crazy. The famished prince began licking his lips in anticipation. Seeing the divine entity literally begging for scraps made Jongseon feel a bit awkward. I've got to eat too, man. With that, he dug in, completely ghosting the starving constellation. Just then, Ju So-ah approached with some water. Here, stay hydrated. She sat beside him. Her gaze fell on his battered weapon. Find that in the forest, Jong-sun just gave a short nod. Yeah, just a bit of luck. But he noticed the longing in her eyes as she stared at the crude club in her hands. She's definitely envious, he thought. He remembered that before her awakening, she was a dedicated sword practitioner. Jong-sun knew that flimsy wooden stick would never unleash her true potential, so he decided to speak up. Check the system window floating right next to you, he urged. Only then did Jo Seo notice the glowing notification. 100 points, she whispered, eyes widening. Wait, I can actually buy a real blade with this. Jong-sun offered a mysterious smirk, leaving her stunned. How is that even possible? She gasped. Just focus on your score, he replied. The shop menu will manifest. Intrigued, Seo followed his lead, feeling like she'd stepped right into a video game. It's just like I told you to survive this hell. You need to master the system as fast as possible. It didn't take long for Seo to pick out her new weapon. The moment she tapped the purchase button, a gleaming longsword materialized out of thin air, making her face light up. Only a real blade could channel her raw power. This is incredible. How did you know? She beamed. But Jong-sun wasn't about to spill his secrets. I'm just a quick learner when it comes to survival, he answered coolly, keeping his cards close to his chest. I thought I was fast, but I'm still miles behind you. Jong-sundae, he blinked. Did she just use his name? Jong-sun was caught off guard by the sudden familiarity. The female swordsman simply flashed him a knowing grin. Thanks for showing me the ropes, she said. Don't mention it, Jong-sun replied with a shrug. I'm looking forward to our partnership, Seo added. But there was no time for small talk. The clock was ticking. And just like that, their first night in this god-forsaken wasteland finally came to a close. As the first rays of dawn broke, Seo was already moving, rousing the group. In exactly 58 minutes, the third wave of monsters would descend. Is everyone ready? She called out. The others groaned, still lost in a groggy haze. They stumbled around like zombies, still struggling to process their nightmare reality. Seeing the chaos, Seo stepped up. She began barking out sharp, decisive commands. Everyone get into the woods. Gather stones for throwing now. Provide rear support. It'll make a huge difference. The rest of you find sturdy branches for makeshift spears. Got it, the group shouted in unison, scrambling to arm themselves before the slaughter began. Watching from the sidelines, Jong-sun noted how different things were this time. Seo was changing the game. Having a central leader kept the panic at bay. Now he could finally focus on hunting down those hidden pieces. He opened the Vault of Greed and pulled out a tome titled The Blue Magic Circle. This was a legendary cultivation technique. It was a secret passed down only to the elite mages of the Blue Tower, one of the 7 great pillars of magic. A magic circle is the fundamental engine for any sorcerer, and even though this specific one was considered the weakest, among the 7 towers it offered a rock-solid foundation that could be evolved using more advanced cultivation paths later on. He'd build his base with the Blue Tower's style, then stack more powerful techniques on top of that ironclad foundation. He couldn't overlook his dantian, the core where mana would pool. But that was just the beginning of his magical journey. To master martial arts, he needed to refine his core constantly, letting his energy flow like a calm, unstoppable river. Deep in meditation, Jong-sun channeled the Blue Tower's essence he'd plucked from Mamon's legendary horde. Regulating his breath, he felt a faint flicker of energy resonating within his chest. He reached out to that inner spark. He coaxed the mana, asking it to bind with his soul. Only the energy that surrendered would settle into his heart. Drawing on the instincts of his past life, Jong-sun manipulated the raw energy with surgical precision. He flooded his heart with mana as naturally as breathing. Suddenly, a system alert flashed before his eyes. Success! You have manifested your first magic circle using the Blue Tower's secret cultivation method. With this circle, casting spells was finally within his reach. His mana rank would now dictate his speed and destructive power. Achievement unlocked. You have received 1,000 points as a special reward for your exceptional progress. Above him, the 3 sisters' constellations leaned in their celestial eyes wide with absolute shock. The Mother of Heaven gasped in awe, and even the wise Witch of the Void took notice of his meteoric rise. Being the center of divine attention didn't sit well with Jong-sundae. He didn't need these minor gods breathing down his neck. He already had Beelzebub and Mammon in his corner. Those 2 entities were on an entirely different level than these petty constellations. The primordial demons of greed and gluttony seemed a bit territorial, clearly annoyed that other gods were eyeing their prize. It looked like his 2 demonic patrons were catching feelings, terrified that some random constellation might try to poach him. The Prince of Hunger looked visibly pouted at the uninvited guests, while Beelzebub just scowled in pure irritation. He swipes a relic. Suddenly, Beelzebub ghosts all lower constellations. Jong's soul is stunned. Cutting off high-tier entities, that's insane. Hacking the system takes massive effort. Just how high level are they? The other gods must be losing their minds, he thinks. His patrons feel the relief. The starving prince loves the peace. The silent watcher keeps observing. Jong Seol pays him no mind. With the static gone, it's time to grind my mana circles. The green tower method is slow, but it definitely builds power. He feels the energy. Then a blonde jerk ruins his focus. Yo, you dead. Wake up. Only 12 minutes left on the clock. The noise is unbearable. I can't concentrate with this guy yapping. Reluctantly, he snaps out of it. But then he sees the face. His heart drops. Why is this trash standing in front of me? The kid beams. Thought you croaked, bro. You didn't move for ages. Jong-sol goes cold. What, relax? We're all in this together, right? Let's be friends, he says. But Jong-sol remembers his past life. Park Jong-pil. Absolute human garbage. A bully who preyed on everyone. He stole from the old and weak, claiming only youth matters. He's only acting nice because the world turned into a nightmare. Deep down, he's still a toxic snake who targets the vulnerable. Jong-seol stands up cold. Jong-pil keeps trying to act friendly. I just want a squad. You look lonely, he mocks. Those words sting. They bring back memories of being hunted like dogs. This rat once pushed me into the woods just for scouting. I got stronger from it, but that doesn't excuse his betrayal. You're a fast runner, right? Jong-seol asks. The bully looks lost. A heavy hand hits his shoulder. Good. You're going to be bait. Time runs out. Wave 3 hits. Everyone readies their wooden spears. Get ready, hold the line, and nobody gets hurt, people. Yu Xiaohua leads the charge against axe-wielding monkeys. Stab them. They thrust in unison, turning the beasts into bloody Swiss cheese. But these monsters have no fear. They just keep swarming forward. There's way too many A survivor screams as the line buckles. Xiaohua panics. The formation is breaking. Is there an exit? Jong-seol predicted this chaos. That's exactly why he kept Jong-pil. He summons a banana and tosses it to the coward. Begin. Jong-pil starts shaking. Wait, what? Is this for real? I'm a slow runner, I swear, he begs, but JS is done. He winds up and kicks the coward square in the butt. Go. The blonde stumbles forward. Instantly, every monkey locks onto him. Drool drips from their fangs. The entire horde turns his way. They lunge. Jong-pil sprints for his life, crying like a baby. He's faster than he looks. I thought he'd trip immediately. Jong-sol smirks. The coward screams for help, desperate and terrified. Witnessing this, Jong-seon sensed the guy was gassing out. Get over here, he barked. I'm coming, Hyung Park shrieked in desperation. Tapping into his mana, Jong-seon summoned a halo of swirling embers, forcing Park Jong-gu to dive for cover. A booming warning from the general sent Park into a total panic. Wait, what's happening, he yelped. The spell was a prize from the Treasury of Greed Fireball, the legendary signature move once wielded by Aliba. Crafted by a Red Tower prodigy, this version scales with any mana circle. Its destructive lethality depends on the user's output. As Jong-seon focused, a blazing sun of pure heat began condensing within the hollow of his palm. He launched the projectile at the surging simian horde. Seeing a meteor hurtling his way, Park Jong-gu's brain stalled. Pure terror etched across his face, but Jong-seon's aim was god-tier, sniping the very heart of the monkey swarm. The shockwave blasted Park forward, tumbling him right to Jong-seon's feet. Hyung. What kind of sorcery was that? Is this actual magic? This is cracked, Park gasped, his jaw hitting the floor along with the others. The witnesses behind him stood frozen, whispering in disbelief, as if they'd been dropped into an epic fantasy novel. Can humans even do that? Unfazed by their shock, Jong-seon watched the thinned-out monster ranks with cold indifference. He was done playing hero. The rest of this mess was on them to clean up. Hand-holding would only cripple them. If they wanted to survive this world, they had to evolve on their own. I'd only be robbed. Points aren't the only way to level up. With that in mind, he unleashed gluttony, feasting on the brown monkeys. System nutrients absorbed from the prey. Agility rose by 3. The starving prince constellation is vibing with this feast. Witnessing Sehun's god-tier power, Park Jong-pyo immediately bowed in total submission. He begged to be a lackey. Sir, I'll follow you until my dying breath. Oh, then don't disappoint me, Sehun replied with a nonchalant shrug. Since Sehun didn't refuse, Pia was stoked. Anything you need, just say the word. Count on me. Good. Go grab a snack. You'll need the cardio soon. The next wave's coming, Sehun warned. More running, Piao groaned, shifting gears. Our MC ventured deep into the forest solo, slaughtering wild boars with ease. He officially hit level 3. Sehun paused, puzzled. Normally this takes 5 whole waves. Is this my authority's true potential? He mused. Simultaneously, Ju Hui's team finished up. They finished off the monkeys. System, 3rd wave of the tutorial successfully cleared. Everyone scores 50 points. Mission complete. I thinned the herd, but still, they cleared it faster than expected. Their resolve is finally hardening. With that, he checked the leaderboard. Sehun still dominated first with 2,480 points. Ju Hui claimed second with 340, followed by Kang Hanchul at 320. They swapped ranks. Turns out even a budget weapon changes the entire game. Sehun mused, but then boom. Heavy footsteps echoed as the boar boss appeared. Sehun didn't flinch. Instead, his eyes gleamed with anticipation. Finally, you've arrived. Meet the hill-digging boar, the zone's boss. Instinctively, Sehun activated the sharpen skill. This colorless tower magic uses mana to hone a blade to its absolute limit. Let's wrap this up, Sehun said coldly. Sensing his killing intent, the beast charged. It rushed toward its doom. With one swift stroke of his magically enhanced blade, our MC sliced the boss clean in half. System Hill Digging Boar defeated. Contribution points plus 500. Loot Giant Boar Tusk. Sehun inspected the massive ivory trophy. A tusk. Unlike the wolf hide, this is just a raw crafting material. It's useless until processed. I'll save this for later, he muttered. Sehun stashed it away. But wait, the boar had dropped one more mysterious treasure. A pillar of light erupted from the boar's excavation, grabbing Sehun's focus. Intrigued, Sehun didn't hesitate and immediately bolted over to investigate. It looked like a whetstone. Item forgotten, hero's tool, grade D. Description: a relic used by a legendary hero to hone his blade. So this was their target. It definitely links back to that legendary sword. I'll test this out later. Sehun headed back. This time the casualties were mounting as stretchers filled the camp. The able-bodied survivors were busy stacking up the massive piles of gorilla corpses. Ignoring the chaos, Sehun focused on a clearing where trees had been felled. He casually threw the hero's tool and sword onto a nearby stump. Additionally, he pulled a Blackstone Forge manual from his inventory, a secret guide for beginners. Blackstone dwarves are legendary for their craftsmanship. He began honing his blade for war. Maintenance before the storm. I never did this before I regressed, Sehun murmured curiously. As the blade scraped, his steady hands caught the eye of an old man nearby. Impressive work. Everyone relies on machines now. True manual smithing is a dying art. Hardly anyone can sharpen with such surgical precision. Hearing this, Sehun paused. Our MC stopped, turning to the stranger. Old man, you know your way around a whetstone. Spent 15 years living by the steel kid, he beamed, snatching Jongson's whetstone with a practiced grip. This stone is top tier. Finding such a rare gem in a godforsaken wasteland like this is a straight-up miracle. Just got lucky. Mind taking a look at my blade, Jongseon proposed. The veteran smith didn't hesitate for a second. Pass it over. He grabbed the sword and immediately dove into his craft, the metal singing against the stone. He admired the hidden potential within the blade. It was old and rusted, but the balance was pure perfection. Luckily, the edge wasn't beyond saving. Watching the old man's precise rhythmic movements, a hidden master in a dump like this, his focus and flow screamed elite craftsmanship to anyone watching. Under those weathered hands, the dull metal transformed, becoming a literal mirror in record time. Few haven't locked in like that in ages. Exhausted but satisfied, he tossed the gleaming weapon back to Jongseon. Give it a spin. See if it fits your hand. Jongseon caught the hilt with a satisfying heavy thud. He slashed the air each swing, whistling with newfound lethality. The difference was night and day compared to before. Suddenly the system flared with new data. The blade had evolved into the Sword of the Forgotten Hero, a rank D masterpiece forged to honor a legend. Thanks to a pro's touch, its former glory had finally returned. Ability 1, Master's Touch, increasing sharpness by 20%. This thing could cut through anything now. Ability 2, Hero's Trace, boosting damage against monsters by 15%. Simple, sleek, and absolutely deadly. It's a work of art, Jongseon whispered. The old man just laughed, feeling refreshed by the hard work. Witnessing that legendary skill, Jongseon pulled out his loot, the boar tusk, and gray wolf leather from earlier. Can you craft something with these? If refined, right, they could become some seriously cracked gear. Right then, a glowing notification pinged in Jongson's vision. A powerful constellation was suddenly paying attention. The warrior with the golden crown had his eyes fixed on the old man, Go Jung Chul. Jongseon froze. That title. It belonged to one of the most legendary figures among the 72 demon lords. It was the 28th demon lord Bareth, a high-ranking entity serving under the 7 deadly sins. Some mistake him for a mindless berserker on a red horse, but he's actually a god-tier master of alchemy. He can turn base metals into gold, boasting smithing skills that rival even the mighty Hephaestus of Olympus. While Hephaestus seeks perfect balance, Bareth craves pure destruction. His weapons are the envy of the gods themselves. Go Jung Chul stared at the floating text, completely baffled. What kind of sorcery is this? Jongseon explained that constellations are divine entities, transcendent beings watching from the very peak of the tower. Why would a god care about a guy like me? Don't sweat it. It's just how things work here. The old man frowned, questioning how he knew so much. Jongseon just gave a knowing, mysterious look. I've got my own divine audience, he replied. Just keep doing your thing and ignore the peanut gallery. They won't bite. In fact, their attention is a massive cheat code if you play it right. Think of it like my fire control, Jongseon added. The old man's eyes sparkled with newfound interest. Then let's make this work, Jongseon said, extending a hand. The smith gripped it with a firm, iron-like squeeze. I'm better at hitting anvils than hitting monsters, he joked. Internally, Jongseon was screaming with pure joy. Securing a master blacksmith was a total game changer. Gear issues. Those were officially a thing of the past. 3 minutes and 21 seconds until the fourth wave. Time was ticking, but Jongseon had work to do. Leaving the materials with Go Jungchul, Jongseon retreated to push his own limits to the absolute max. It was time to rob Mammon's treasury again. He reached into the void, hunting for a new power. He pulled out the 3 natural talents, a skill rooted in the secrets of heaven, earth, and man. It allows one to perceive the entire universe. With his mana circle formed, he needed the final piece. While the heart holds the mana circle, the dantian sits in the lower abdomen waiting to be awakened. He had to guide the energy to flow and live on its own. Jongseon closed his eyes, focusing intensely. He surged his internal energy with practiced ease, feeling the power respond to his every command. Boom! The dantian snapped open. The 3 natural talents skill had successfully worked its ancient magic. With his dantian active, true martial mastery was finally within his grasp. Every strike would now be devastating. Internal energy peak attained. System alert, you've secured a top-tier bonus of 1,000 points. Jungsol exhaled, pausing his grind. The clock is ticking just 60 minutes before the next wave hits. As he whispered to himself, Master Go Cheng-sok arrived fresh from refining the raw materials. Impressive work, you forged that boar fang into a blade faster than I anticipated, Go noted with a grin. Still, the artisan sighed. A top-tier refining agent eluded me. Go ahead, inspect your new gear. Curious, Jongsol pulled up the stats. Item 1. The Grey Wolf Cloak Type Cape. Rank C. Lore forged by a master of the Grey Wolf clan, sovereigns of the Gravel Lands. It channels primal power within the wolf forest. Next, the Fang Dagger rank C+. Origin the hill-digging boar. This beast ruled the heights. Its tusk was whetstone honed into a lethal, high-output killing tool. Satisfied, Go asked. Jongsol gave a firm nod. More than satisfied, this is exactly what I needed. Internal monologue, unreal. Crafting a D+ piece without tools. This man definitely deserves Bareth's watchful eye. Go casually flipped him a sheath. Just some scrap leather I worked into a scabbard, he remarked. Thanks, Jongsol replied. Keen to maximize this veteran's utility for the long haul, he dropped a proposal. Listen, don't throw yourself onto the front lines. You're far more valuable elsewhere. Stick to the camp and oversee our arsenal. Can you handle the equipment management? Happy to help, the old man agreed. That's a game changer for the entire squad's survival. The upcoming assault will be brutal. Over in the center, Yusio was a blur of motion. She barked orders, prepping the defense. It's go time. Everyone assume positions exactly as Jongsol instructed. Lock in. This wave is lethal. Nearby, a survivor watched the chaos with eerie calm. Danger, we've got this handled right. Honestly, I'm rooting for more wild boar meat. Free rations, let's go, someone shouted back. But hearing the banter only deepened Yusio's dread. They're too relaxed, she worried. If Jungsol's sounding the alarm, this won't be a walk in the park. Suddenly, a thunderous boom shattered the air. The source, the unit's absolute powerhouse. Han Chul buried his fist in the earth, carving out a massive crater. Shut it, he growled intensely. The crowd froze instantly. Seizing the moment, Yusio stepped up to deliver the final countdown. 60 seconds left, she glanced at the giant. You're Kang Han Chul, yeah, good looking out. Han Chul gave her the cold shoulder, silent. Then, right on cue, Wave 4 officially breached the zone. Grey wolves, the predators of the forest, emerged. Wolves. Pfft. We've handled these scrubs before, someone scoffed. Easy XP. But as the shadows took form, the cocky grins began to fade into pure terror. Wait, why are they massive? Panic surged. Park Jong-pil, the group's resident coward, turned to Jung-sol. Yo, what the hell? Why are these things the size of trucks? He shrieked. What were you expecting, fluffy sheep? Jung-sol deadpanned. No, I didn't think anything, Jong-pil stammered. Jung-sol scanned their trembling faces. He remembered being that pathetic, once a lifetime ago. Giant monsters used to haunt his dreams, but his gaze shifted. 2 people stood out from the herd, Yusio and Han Chul. Neither showed a hint of fear. They were built different. Enough talk. Let the hunt begin. Jungsol's cold voice sent a jolt through Jong-pil, the designated bait. Problem. Jungsol's gaze pierced him. Trapped, Jong-pil took off, sobbing like a baby. This is literal hell. He sprinted, dragging a literal pack of furry death right toward Jung-sol. I'm gonna die. While he wailed, Jung-seol was already channeling a massive swirling fireball. A warm welcome for the wolves. Isn't this a bit overkill? He mused. He unleashed the blast. Jong-pil nearly jumped out of his skin. Dude, a little heads up next time. Zero cares given. Caught in the inferno, the wolves shrieked as the flames turned them into ash. Wolf meat BBQ was served. Watching the carnage, the gluttonous demon Beelzebub began to salivate. The hungry prince literally grabbed his chopsticks, eyes glued to the delicious plate below. One lone wolf evaded the blast, shadows clinging to its fur. Jung-sol didn't blink, he just drew his blade. Eager to test drive his lethal new acquisition, Jong-sun unsheathed the legendary Bloodwolf sword style. Plucked from the depths of a hidden treasure vault, this technique was forged by Wudong's legendary master, Zhao Kong. A master who abandoned humanity to duel wild beasts, its secrets were now Zhang Sun's to command. Tightening his grip, he vanished, streaking forward like a lethal bolt. With a single devastating form, Bloodwolf's Claw. The gray wolf was shredded instantly. With my Dantian finally awakened, this is child's play. This style is on a whole different level now, Zhang Sun realized. In that same heartbeat, he flooded his muscles with raw internal energy. Nearby, the pack watched their comrade get absolutely demolished. Howling in a bloodthirsty frenzy, the pack swarmed him like a literal carpet of teeth and fur. But Zhang Sun didn't even blink. He stood immovable, channeling massive energy into the style's opening strike. Bloodwolf's fang charged with overwhelming power, the air began to scream. Then the massacre began. As the wolves lunged into the kill zone, a literal storm of sword aura erupted from his blade. The aura shredded the beasts in a blur of steel. They were too slow to even register their deaths. Not a single drop touched his cloak before the predators became mere roadkill. It was a total bloodbath. Watching the carnage, Zhang Pil trembled. "Bro, are you even human anymore? Don't be a clown," Zhang Sun snapped. Shaking off the comment, he triggered his glutton's privilege. It was time to feast and level up. Nutrients absorbed. Strength +1. Agility +3. The constellation Hungry Prince grinned wide. The entity was famished. Meanwhile, Zhang Pil pointed toward the chaos. "Hey, can I go help them out?" He motioned to the survivors, barely holding back the starving wolves. One look told Zhang Sun they were cooked. Things were looking grim. Most were struggling to survive, especially Han Chol, who was moving like he was lagging. He was completely outclassed by the wolves' speed. But Yuseoa, she was absolutely popping off in the fray. Her sheer skill caught the eye of a cosmic heavyweight. The constellation He Who Wears the Crown descended. The entity observed her blade work with fascination. This was Baal, the apex of the 72 demon lords. Not quite a god, but a master swordmaster, commanding 66 legions of hell. A true monster of war. It made sense why he was scouting her. Zhang Sun stroked his chin, realizing Baal was testing her limit. He was measuring her worth. Her strikes were a blur, impossibly fast. Despite having only one blade, it felt like a dozen swords were striking at once. Baal was seeing if she deserved his unholy blessing. Zhang Sun's gaze darkened. As the demon lord's aura enveloped her, Yuseoa's raw power began to explode. Her stats went through the roof. Realizing the tide had turned, the others prepped for a massive counterstrike. "Now is our chance. Wipe them out," they roared. Meanwhile, Baal watched her every move with predatory focus. The demon lord was impressed. He Who Wears the Crown tilted its head, clearly amused by the slaughter. "Looks like the big guy likes what he sees," Zhang Sun mused, with Yuseoa leading the charge. The fourth wave was pulverized in minutes. Notification: you have successfully cleared the fourth attack. Wave 4 complete. All participants receive 100 bonus points. Calculating the contribution rankings for this bloodbath. First, Zhang Sun, 4,920 points. Second, Yuseoa, 900. Third, Kang Han Cheol, 580. As the screen flickered, Yuseoa's legs finally gave out. She collapsed, but Zhang Sun was already there. He caught her before she hit the dirt. "Not bad kid," he whispered, but the aftermath was grim. Wounded survivors lay everywhere, torn apart by the wolves. "Is anyone here a medic?" a voice screamed. A green-haired girl looked around desperately. One guy stepped up, but his face was pale with helplessness. He just shook his head. Without his surgical kit, he was useless. Suddenly, every eye in the group shifted. They glared at Zhang Sun with pure resentment. Why was the strongest among them just standing there like a statue? Feeling the heat of their gaze, Zhang Sun began to walk forward. The crowd tensed up immediately. "What now? You just watched us die." Ignoring the salt, Zhang Sun shoved a guy aside. He accessed his treasure of greed, activating a white tower healing spell. A low-tier but effective miracle. It was designed to halt hemorrhaging and kill the pain instantly. The crowd watched in stunned silence as a shimmering blue aura enveloped the gashes. The torn flesh began to knit back together right before their eyes. "Look, his injuries are vanishing," gasps the man in blue. The azure-haired girl watches in awe. She pleads, "Can you assist over here? My healing is hitting its limit." Zhang Xiao nods calmly. "Stay back. I will handle the ones in critical condition." After stabilizing the dying, Zhang Xiao retreats to a tree. This should suffice for now. Results are perfect. 0 casualties and the wounded are already bouncing back. Suddenly, his peace is shattered. The massive Han Chol looms over like a mountain. "Problem?" Zhang Xiol asks coldly. Han Cheol's answer is simple: "Fight me." A smirk plays on Zhang Xiol's lips. Typical Han Cheol. To truly reach him, I must crush his pride first. "Fine," Zhang Sol agrees. "Bring your weapons and magic." His tone is icy. Against someone like this, he doesn't need his full power. "Try landing a hit on me barehanded first," he says, cracking his knuckles. Han Chol bristles at the disrespect. Teeth gritted, he lunges with explosive force. A massive fist whistles toward Zhang Xiol's face, but he shifts like a shadow. He's heavy-handed, sure, but his defense is nothing but gaping holes. Zhang Xiol counters with a sharp kick, yet Han Qiol stands firm. Impressive durability. Han Qiol unleashes a relentless barrage of strikes, forcing Zhang Xiol back. After a quick trade, Zhang Xiol realizes his current stats aren't enough for raw brawling. Time for a tactical change. He summons the Tai Chi Quan skill book. This legendary martial art focuses on flow, standing alongside greats like Shaolin Kung Fu. Once the skill activates, Zhang Xiol's aura shifts as he enters a fluid stance. Oblivious to the change, Han Qiol swings another heavy haymaker with all his might. But this time, Zhang Xiol doesn't run. He calmly catches the devastating fist. With a subtle tilt, he redirects the momentum before shoving forward with both palms. The giant is sent reeling, smashing into a tree with bone-rattling impact. Yet his tank-like constitution is insane. Even after that, he barely has a scratch. "I'm not done," he bellows, charging back in like a frenzied berserker. Pure strength favors Han Qiol, but Tai Chi isn't about matching force with force. Mastering energy is key. Relying on raw power against this style ensures self-destruction. As Han Qiol closes the gap, Zhang Xiol blurs past with lightning-fast footwork. He connects a single palm strike, hurling the big man back once more. The impact snaps the massive tree in half. Han Qiol sighs in defeat. "You win." Zhang Xiol heals him. "Relax. You are already strong. You just need refinement. From now on, you train with me twice a day," he says, helping him up. "Deal," Han Qiol grunts, grasping Zhang Xiol's hand as he hauls himself up. Unbeknownst to them, their clash attracts the gaze of a powerful constellation. The old man riding a crocodile is watching Han Qiol. Zhang Xiol recognizes the name. Agarus, the second-ranked demon king. Han Qiol finally caught a big fish. Zhang Xiol smiles for his friend. Suddenly, the fifth wave erupts, but the vibe shifted. After surviving 4 brutal rounds, the survivors no longer look like prey. Zhang Xiol grins at the transformation. Wolves, boars, monkeys, they've conquered them all. So what is next on the menu, he wonders, as the horizon trembles. Massive gray boars emerge, charging toward the group like living armored tanks. "Ready your steel. Hold the line," Jisiok bellows, rallying the troops for battle. Even the cowardly Park Jung-ho found his spine. "Sir, I am ready. Order me." Zhang Xiol takes one look at him and scoffs. "Just sit this one out." The guy was left utterly stunned. Ignoring the shock on his face, Zhang Xion pivoted his focus back to the unfolding carnage. He realized he'd been playing it safe for far too long, holding back against these weaklings. "I was nerfing myself to stay on their level, but those days are officially over. Besides, it's time these guys grinded for their own contribution points." Zhang Xion's gaze shifted toward Han Qiol, who was using pure, unadulterated muscle to tank a charging gray boar. The man gripped its tusks with a vice-like hold, hoisted the massive beast skyward, and slammed it into the dirt with bone-shattering force. Wait, is that Tai Chi? His pact with Agarus must be complete. His stats have skyrocketed. At this rate, I can finally stop babysitting. Zhang Xian's mutterings made Park Jung-po jump. "Wait, what? Wherever you're heading, I'm your shadow," Jung-po pleaded, rubbing his hands together like a total sycophant. But Zhang Xion shut him down instantly. "No dice. I'm scaling that peak over there." Jung-po's eyes followed Zhang Xian's finger to the horizon. It wasn't just a mountain. It was a vertical stone pillar reaching for the clouds. One look was enough to know this climb was a suicide mission. One slip meant becoming a permanent part of the landscape. Jung-po's bravado vanished instantly. On second thought, "I'll just hold down the fort here. Stay safe." With a calm stride, Zhang Xion headed for the rocky monolith. Suddenly, a pack of brown monkeys blocked his path. These mobs were literal fodder. Zhang Xion carved through them like a hot knife through butter, using them as living punching bags. His proficiency bars were moving. The internal energy from his Bloodwolf sword style began to surge. Bloodwolf's fang reached a new level of lethality. Meanwhile, the starving prince Constellation began complaining that a simple barbecue wouldn't cut it. "Chill out, I promise you a legendary feast." Zhang Xion nodded, activating his gluttony skill to appease the bottomless hunger of his demonic patron. Dealing with this constellation was like raising a high-maintenance starving pet. He sent a reassuring thought. "Don't worry, the prize at the summit is tastier than anything you've ever devoured." Zhang Xion paused, staring up at the daunting rock face. In his previous life, exploring this terrain would have been a death sentence, but he was a different man now. He pulled a hidden ace from his treasury, the essence of the Balaton Cliff Golden Monkey, the ultimate apex predator of these vertical heights. As the power fused with his soul, Zhang Xion felt his very biology adapt to the mountain. Easy mode activated, he smirked. Without another word, he began his vertical assault on the cliff. Every grip felt natural, and he could read the shifting winds like a pro. Primal monkey instincts were screaming through his veins. Without this buff, he'd have been a stain on the rocks long ago. The starving prince chimed in again, wondering what kind of snacks could possibly exist in such a desolate place. Back to our protagonist, he whispered to the wind. The wait is finally over. Suddenly he spotted 3 brown monkeys perched precariously on a branch just above him. Their eyes were bulging out of their heads. They looked absolutely terrified. How could they have expected a human to survive the climb to their domain? Zhang Xian gave them a dark smile. The monkeys quickly snapped out of their shock and began frantically hurling stones at him. Zhang Xian didn't flinch. He put explosive power into his arms and launched himself upward like a rocket. Before gravity could pull him back down, he whipped out a blade and buried it deep into the stone. Gotta keep moving, he thought, catching sight of a dark opening midway up the cliffside. That cave. It's a hidden path for the monkeys. Jackpot. Have I finally tracked down the hidden fragment? He summoned his fire magic, a lethal flame flickering to life in his palm. Sensing his murderous intent, the monkeys below turned pale with fear. A split second later, a massive explosion rocked the cliff face, and charred monkey corpses rained down like soot. Zhang Xian didn't look back as he vaulted into the cave. Just as he suspected, this was a secret tunnel leading straight to the mountain's peak. He reached the summit effortlessly, only to be met by a discount Sun Wukong. The white monkey let out a deafening roar. It was a weak attempt at intimidation. So you're the big boss of this playground. A mere monkey. Thank God you're not the real great sage. You'd never measure up anyway. A constellation rivaling the heavens themselves. This primate's form is clearly a cheap imitation of the great sage Sun Wukong. Finally, a worthy opponent, Zhang Xian, smirked effortlessly, parrying a crushing blow from the imposter's staff. The showdown between the pretender and Zhang Xian officially ignited. Leveraging its superior agility, the snowy beast unleashed a flurry of strikes from every angle, forcing our hero into a desperate defensive dance. Its mechanics are cracked for a tutorial boss. If I just play passive and soak up damage, I'm toast, Zhang Xian realized. Channeling power into his quads, he launched himself backward to reset. Seeking a momentary breather, he knew he had to go on the offensive to avoid a beatdown. Sharpening his focus, he lunged into the pocket, weaving through a rain of lethal staff thrusts. Spotting a frame-perfect opening, Zhang Xian snatched the boss's weapon mid-air. He then delivered a brutal Spartan kick, right to the gut, blasting the fake backward while disarming it. Damn, this thing is surprisingly heavy, he muttered, feeling the sheer density of the polearm. Seeing its prize stolen, the boss went absolutely ballistic, screeching in fury. What's the matter? Missing your favorite toy? Zhang Xian taunted with a cocky grin. Accessing the treasury of greed, he activated the dog-beating staff technique. This legendary beggar sect art was perfected to humble rabid beasts and unruly vagrants alike. Zhang Xian immediately shifted into a lethal combat stance, matching the secret technique and leaving the monkey completely baffled. Time began to fly by. Weaponless and outclassed by Zhang Xian's new skill, it wasn't long before he cracked the monkey's skull wide open. The vermin of Stone Monkey Mountain has been purged. You have reached a new level. Personal contribution surges by 1,000 points. You've obtained the rare Stone Mountain Chestnut. I should probably hand this over to Old Man Go later. It's bound to be useful, he mused. Then, he summoned his glutton's privilege to satisfy that bottomless hunger. My bad for making you wait. The fanged serpent lunged, tearing into the monkey's remains with savage hunger. Cliff-climbing monkey successfully absorbed. Nutrient gain boosted agility and intelligence by 5 points each. Zhang Xian stared. Witnessing his stats skyrocket instantly, he was floored. A 10-point jump in one go. The power of greed is truly broken. This devouring ability is insane. I'm going to be an unstoppable tank. Glancing at the nearby precipice, he shook his head. Actually, never mind that. Let's see what loot this monkey was gatekeeping. He began heaving aside a massive stone slab, uncovering a hidden cavern within. Suddenly, a system alert chimed, confirming the discovery for Zhang Xian. Entering the national dungeon, the Forgotten Hero. No way. A hidden dungeon in Chapter 1 of the tutorial. This means a massive experience farm, compared to grinding trash mobs. Plus, the rewards for the first clear will be absolutely astronomical. The loot multipliers will be insane. I'm already here, so why stop now? With zero hesitation, Zhang Xian dove into the abyss. Playing it safe, he summoned an item called the Night Owl's Eye. Taken from an apex predator, these eyes harvest every stray photon, even in pitch-black darkness, granting perfect night vision. Once equipped, the cavern's secrets were laid bare before him. It's been a steady descent since the entrance. Since this path cuts deep into the mountain, I must be approaching the base. He navigated the gloom until he hit a massive chamber, bristling with ancient swords driven into the earth. The surrounding walls were scarred with violent, terrifying blade marks. This place screams death trap. This is definitely a high-level training ground, he noted, spotting a peculiar keyhole. This has to be the quest trigger. Acting on instinct, he drew the Forgotten Hero's sword and jammed it firmly into the slot. The moment steel met stone, the blade erupted in a blinding radiance. You have qualified to face the Forgotten Hero. The system message flashed. Instantly, our protagonist felt a chilling presence manifest right behind him. It was the legend himself. He watched the hero casually pull a blade from the floor, ready to school Jong Seon. Our hero was caught completely off guard. He wasn't even ready. Damn it, is the boss fight starting already? Jong Seon cursed under his breath. But the difficulty wasn't the issue. Because in that split second, Jong Seon realized his blade was jammed tight. Suddenly, the system interface flickered to life with urgent alerts. The Forgotten Heroes trial had officially commenced. Rule number 1, only the shattered steel scattered here is permitted. Heavy mana began suffocating his magic. The moment his fingers closed around a fractured hilt, the legendary phantom would awaken. Jong Seon's gaze sharpened his playful demeanor, vanishing instantly. No gear, no spells, talk about a handicap. With a grimace, he snatched up a jagged, rusted blade. As his grip tightened, the hero blurred into motion, striking with the speed of a lethal projectile. A heavy strike came crashing down, forcing Jong Seon into a desperate two-handed guard just to survive. Surprised by the block, the hero's eyes glinted with intrigue. Centuries have passed since someone actually stood their ground. Bracing himself, Jong Seon shoved the phantom back. Wait, so I'm not the first one to wander in here? The hero nodded solemnly, recalling a distant memory. There was one. An eternity ago. Jong Seon smirked. And since you're still standing, they obviously failed. In an instant, their blades collided once more. They traded blows at supersonic speeds, but Jong Seon was struggling with his brittle, failing weapon. The constant shock proved too much. His blade disintegrated into a cloud of useless metal shards. Thinking fast, he discarded the hilt and lunged for another rusted scrap of steel. Let's be real, these weapons were absolute trash, eroded by ages of decay and dampness. His new blades snapped like a twig upon contact. Fortunately, the hero pulled back, choosing to speak instead of kill. Impressive reflexes, the hero remarked, but your physical vessel is lagging behind your combat instincts. Jong Seon froze. This guy had analyzed his entire physiological limit in just a few heartbeats. Throwing the useless handle away, he groaned. Seriously, who uses high-level sword chi in a tutorial level? Is this even beatable? He barked. The hero paused, shocked. You actually recognize the essence of sword chi. The mystery of why everyone else died here was finally solved. This wasn't a trial, it was a slaughterhouse. First you have to find this hidden hellhole, and then you're expected to counter legendary energy. It seemed physically impossible. But the ancient warrior didn't care about his excuses for even a second. His voice was like cold steel. Master this, or let this chamber become your eternal tomb. He lunged again, a blur of lethal intent. The intensity ramped up as his strikes became truly murderous. The phantom's blade danced toward his throat, forcing a frantic evasion. How long will you play this cowardly game of tag? I am no mindless beast, he hissed. My patterns evolve. You cannot hide forever. Jong Seon's mind raced. He was right, this wasn't some basic mob with a predictable AI loop. You can't just memorize a boss phase here. If he stayed on the defensive, his luck was bound to run out. Death was closing in. Dodging was futile, and blocking with these toothpicks was suicide. He was completely cornered. Desperate times called for shady measures. He reached out to Mammon, snagging a forbidden technique from the vault. He manifested the legendary Tai Chi sword, the Wudong sect's ultimate answer to brute force and aggression. It was the art of soft conquering hard. Just as he synchronized his breathing, the hero's blade whistled toward his chest. Jong Seon moved like flowing water, parrying the strike with a rhythmic circular motion that defied physics. Miraculously, his brittle blade remained intact. The hero's eyes widened in genuine shock at the impossible feat. Impressive, the warrior grunted, but not enough. With a violent twist, he sent Jong Seon's sword flying into the darkness. Yet in his arrogance, the hero left his flank exposed. This was the one opening Jong Seon had been hunting for. Drawing a hidden blade in a flash, he unleashed the devastating third form of the Bloodwolf style. The Bloodwolf strike erupted with primal fury, disarming the legendary hero in a single savage motion. Incredible. You read my movements like an open book. The hero stared at his empty hands, stunned. Such mastery requires decades of war. Yet your soul shows no trace of formal training. Who are you? Jong Seon chuckled internally. Bro, I literally just downloaded this skill from a loot box 5 seconds ago. To anyone else, he looked like a hidden master smurfing in a low-level zone. The ultimate flex. Keeping his secrets to himself, he just shrugged. So, did I pass this little test or what? The hero gave a respectful nod. You disarmed a legend. Consider this trial conquered, young wolf. From this moment on, no soul shall ever strip that blade from your grasp again. The words barely left his lips before the ancient hero's blade, wedged deep within the lock, ignited with a blinding radiance. It instantly seized Jong Seok's attention. This was the legendary power the nameless warrior had guarded through the eons. This was the ultimate prize of the trial. Without hesitation, Jong Seok reached out with both hands, clutching the hilt with a firm grip. But the instant his skin met steel, a violent torrent of raw energy flooded his veins. The hero's voice echoed from the shadows. Steady yourself, the blade is judging its new master. At those words, Jong-suk's tension vanished. An S-rank weapon for sure. Fine by me, he thought. I'm an expert at enduring pain. In my previous life, I conquered the 92nd floor, despite having zero natural talent. He tightened his hold, bracing against the overwhelming force threatening to tear his body apart, and gave one final desperate heave. As the blade slid free, its very essence began to shift and transform. So, this is its genuine form, he gasped. By his side, the extraction of the blade signaled the end of an era. The hero's duty was finally fulfilled. You're still unrefined, the spirit noted, but greatness will find you in time. I look forward to the legend you'll carve. With those final words, his spectral form began to dissolve into the ether, vanishing just as mysteriously as he'd arrived. Suddenly, the system interface flared to life. Hidden dungeon trial of the nameless hero cleared. Level up. You have accomplished a feat that will be etched into history. Contribution points increased by 20,000. You have obtained the legendary relic of the fallen warrior. The mythic blade Durandal, high above the constellation Corvus, bolted upright in shock. Meanwhile, the sixth wave's carnage had erupted elsewhere, where Juso-Ah was locked in a life-or-death struggle against those same vicious stone monkeys Jong-suk had previously crushed. She sliced through a beast and thrust her blade forward, screaming, "Keep the line, don't let the formation break. The momentum is ours, stay focused." Near her, the mountain of a man Han Chul swung with devastating power, unleashing a relentless storm of fists that pulverized every monster in his path single-handedly. He was a one-man army, still no sign of Jong-suk-so. "Ah," muttered anxiously, "I hope he's not in over his head." Han Chul didn't answer immediately. He remained eerily quiet, lost in his own grim calculations. "I'm done waiting," she snapped. "I'm going after him the second this wave ends. You're backing me up, right?" "Don't bother," Han Chul replied flatly. "But without him, we're—" He cut her off before she could finish. "That man doesn't need our pity. He's likely off pulling off some insane stunt we can't even fathom. So our only job is to survive and level up until his return." While speaking, he glanced at the holographic leaderboard. Rank 1, Jong-suk, 28,660 points. Rank 2, Ju-seo-ah, 1,680 points. Third, Han Chul, 1,600. Witnessing that god-tier point gap, the tension finally left Seo-ah's face. "Fine," she whispered. Meanwhile, deep in the shadows, Jong-suk stirred his internal clock, completely broken. "Did I seriously black out the moment I pulled it? Crap. My mana and internal reserves are bone dry. I'm dying to see these stats. But I have to fix my Dantian first." He immediately dropped into a deep meditative trance to cycle his exhausted energy. However, only seconds into his focus, a strange sensation hit him. His recovery was off the charts, impossibly fast. His eyes snapped open. Wait, what is this insane flow? He spun around to find a colossal pillar of pure celestial energy erupting toward the heavens right behind him. Looks like the blade wasn't the only jackpot in this dungeon. Grinning, he prepared to siphon the surging power. He activated the dark mana circle he'd looted from the treasury. This was the forbidden cultivation art of the Dark Tower, a secret reserved only for their elite disciples. Combined with the Supreme Core Break technique, a legendary manual whispered through generations of the demonic sect. He was ready. "I'm going to suck this energy source bone dry," Jong-suk muttered with predatory focus. His body became a void, a human vacuum devouring every scrap of energy until the system flared. System Wave 6, conquered success. Wave 7 cleared, Wave 8 annihilated. All participants receive bonus rewards. Awarding 200 points, the rapid-fire notifications sent a jolt of surprise through him. How long was I out? It's been 36 hours. Glad to see they didn't fold without me. The tutorial's ultimate trial looms the 10th wave. Prepare for a massive monster-level spike. Time to prove my worth at the campsite. While processing this, Jong-sul's skills evolved after devouring the dungeon's endless energy. The Supreme Core Break technique forged half an energy pearl in your Dantian. Every strike now boasts lethal precision and power. The Dark Tower's secrets birthed a second mana circle. Second circle magic is finally online. My mana is surging, Jong-sul realized. Feeling the raw power, he grinned. Evolving this fast in just 2 days is insane. But the real prize, the sealed stone-splitting sword Durandal. Rank B. A mythic blade forged for legends. Its true potential remains locked, awaiting a master worthy of its steel. Jong-sul stared at the stats in disbelief. Finding this in a tutorial is madness. Even before I regressed, this blade was a ghost story. Jong-sul gave it a test swing, and a violent gale erupted. Even sealed, it's a monster. The remaining shackles are likely due to my weak stats, he muttered. Suddenly, a system alert flashed. 24 minutes until the 9th wave hits, Jong-sul snapped into action and bolted toward the camp. Damn, no time to waste. Meanwhile, Juseo's squad is in hell. Monkeys everywhere, hold the line, the brown-haired girl screamed. Too many of them, the shield-bearer grunted. What about the wounded? Damn it all. No time for the fallen, someone barked. Elsewhere, leader Hu So-young slashed through the chaos shielding her team, but her blade lacked its usual bite. The crowned spider constellation critiqued her form. Your movements lack finesse, it hissed. Not the time she snapped. Since the 7th wave, the difficulty had spiked, and the casualties were mounting. Can we actually survive this? Then disaster struck. A red monkey lunged at her blind spot, sensing the incoming strike. Seo-young pivoted to parry, but her hands were shaking uncontrollably. Her grip failed. Seeing her defenseless, the tank Han Chiol slammed his palms into the earth, erupting the ground beneath the beasts. Monkey's sword, the Gariel riding elder constellation watched the carnage with a smirk. The crowned spider bared its fangs, warning the old man to back off. Thanks, Juseo, she nodded. Just breathe, Han Chiol advised. But the wounded, she stammered. If you break, we all die, he reminded her. She looked at him. Even the tank was bleeding out. Without Jong-sul, they were finished. Suddenly, Park Jong-pil's blood-curdling scream echoed nearby, grabbing their attention. We're done for. Where are you, Jong-sul? He wailed, clutching bananas while a horde of monkeys snapped at his heels. Blinded by panic, Jong-pil caught a rock and ate dirt. The pack closed in, ready for a feast. Jong-pil's life flashed before his eyes. He sobbed for his parents, but death wasn't calling his name today. At the final second, a jagged bolt of lightning tore through the sky, frying the monkeys where they stood. Juseo and Han Chiol watched in shock as constellation alerts flooded their screens. The crowned spider and the Gariel riding elder both bowed before the demon god. Over here, Jong-sul had returned. His presence alone made Jong-pil weep with relief. Bro, he cried. Meanwhile, Jong-sul unleashed a storm of lightning, finally breathing a sigh of relief. Things are deadlier than I anticipated. Ju-se-ho and Han Cheol held firm, but what is that guy even doing? He snagged a constellation's gaze. The pillager cackles, pointing a finger directly at player Park Jong-pil. The background players noticed Jong-seol's return. That mana, could it be? Is he the freaking blood wolf? Jong-seol dazed out, so Park Jong-pil cleared his throat and stepped up to spill the tea. So you vibe with the nickname I picked. The scent of blood drifting every time you slash that blade. Plus that wolfish cloak. It's a total vibe, right? He grinned, clueless that Jong-seol wanted to end him. He just wanted to tackle him and throw hands. A player's alias carries as much weight as their name, and it's used way more often. Letting a clown choose it. No way. I'll make sure. I'm the one who gives you a special title, Jong-seol growled. For real, I'd be so honored. Park Jong-pil chirped with a grin. With Jong-seol back, they smashed through the 9th wave successfully. 9th wave cleared. Everyone gets 200 points. First place, Jong-seol, 41,660 points. Second, Ju-seol, 4,820 points. Third, Han Cheol, 4,760. Once the dust settled, Ju-seol, rushed over. Jong-seol, where the heck have you been all this time? You were gone for ages. Instead of answering, Jong-seol just glanced over at the rest of the squad. Explanations later. Right now, focus on securing the camp. The female leader nodded, getting the message instantly. Total chaos still reigned, so she sprinted off to manage it, but threw a final warning his way. You owe me a full report later, Ju-seol. Is really stepping up as camp leader, Jong-seol noted. Nearby, the big guy muttered, she's gotten stronger. Meet me at the shattered ancient tree. He vanished instantly. The request sparked a realization for our hero. The tree, is he looking to spar? It's been a minute since our last duel. Jong-seol's voice turned icy. Park Jong-pil, give me the sitrep. The decoy kid waved his hands humbly and saluted. Yes, sir, right after you headed for Rocky Mountain. Wave 6 ended smoothly, but once the 7th hit, well, things got complicated. Jong-seol stared, shocked by Jong-pil's report. It sounded like a perfectly rehearsed script. This dude actually has talent. Pre-regression, he was just a loser clinging to Hanchol and causing drama. But his briefing skills are top tier. I guess he's actually worth the attention of the 6th-ranked demon, Balfour. Meanwhile, Jong-pil kept yapping, totally oblivious to the internal monologue happening in front of him. During the break, the twins built a wooden wall. The twins, Jong-seol's brow furrowed as memories surfaced. We cut to the twins. Right then, the two sisters were deep in a heated discussion. This spot is still weak. I told you we needed more reinforcement, the girl in pink barked. The blue-clad sister snapped back. If we used your plan, the wave would have hit before we finished. Their bickering was cut short when Park Jong-pil showed up with Jong-seol in tow. Hanaji Handewol, what's the holdup? The boss is back, and you haven't even greeted him. Look here, recognition flashed in Jong-seol's eyes. These twins, ever since the 3rd wave, they've actually been pretty impressive. They were absolute beasts on the front line against the monsters. Being twins makes them even more iconic. Oh look, it's Mr. Bloodwolf, they cheered. Hearing that title made Jong-seol's face cloud over. Bloodwolf. I still despise that cringe nickname. That brat and his stupid naming sense, Jong-seol hissed internally. His irritation left Jong-pil baffled. What did I even do? Shaking it off, Jong-seol regained his cool. You two worked hard. Did you spend points on those tools? Yeah, Ju Seol, gave the order. It might look sketchy, but it's lethal against red wolves. They bragged with smiles, and Jung Seol had to respect it. It should hold for the next wave too. Hearing his validation, the twins' anxiety flared back up. But we're out of timber. There's no way the two of us can finish before the next onslaught. Jung Seol was just being supportive. In his head, he knew the grim truth. A wooden fence won't do squat against wave 10. But the reason I'm scouting you two, that barricade is useless for what's coming next. However, your potential, that's what I'm actually after. Celestial eyes are fixed on them. The Blackbird constellation perched ominously upon a razor-sharp spear. This entity observes Han Agi, while the giant vulture constellation tracks every move of Han Dal. Ranking 38 and 39, the demons, Halphus and Malthus, command the powers of construction. The gore-drenched Lion King smoothed his golden fur, basking in the human's rare and unexpected validation. Another cosmic entity nodded, confirming that the title Lord of Hell fit him like a tailored glove. Amusement flickered in Yongsun's gaze. Sometimes these godlike beings were just plain adorable. He quickly refocused on reality. With the wounded patched up, Yongsun prepped to depart. Hit me up if things get dicey. Massive thanks, Li Hanwu chirped. A demonic contract with Marbus. This camp was becoming a fortress. The defensive buffs were insane. Who knew the base would transform so drastically while he was conquering the Rocky Mountains? Time for the next move, Yongsun muttered, locking onto Go Changseo, who was busy sweating over an anvil. The rhythmic clanging of metal filled the air. Busy day, sir, Yongxion called out, approaching. Recognizing that voice, the veteran smith paused, wiping his brow. Back already. You're a sight for sore eyes. The specialized gear Seol, and Hansol carried all hand-forged by Go Chengseo's legendary craftsmanship. The quality was elite, perfectly balanced for their styles. Even Yongxion couldn't help but feel impressed. Suddenly, the old man's eyes glued themselves to the blade resting on Yongsun's hip. His gaze turned pure, greedy. Whoa, hold up. What kind of monster blade are you packing there? Yongsun smirked internally, sensing the smith's hype. He slowly drew the steel from its scabbard. The blacksmith's eyes flared like high beams. I wondered where you'd vanished to. You brought back a masterpiece. Take it easy, Pops. Stare any harder, and you'll burn a hole right through the metal, Yongxion teased. He nudged the old man to chill out. Only then did the smith realize he was geekish out. Shifting gears awkwardly, he looked away. Right. So what brings you? That blade looks flawless. Doesn't need a touch-up, the old man noted. Yongxion pulled out the trophy from the Monkey King's corpse. He held up the glowing artifact. First, I need your expert opinion on this. The Golden Crown constellation fiddled with his headpiece. Now that material is straight up high tier. A unique starstone, huh? Go Changseo hummed. Yongsun knew the old pro would spot it instantly. It was the legendary Jade Stone, dropped by the Rocky Mountain boss. Easily the most cracked material available right now. Yongxion got straight to the point. I need you to forge this into armor. Consider it done. I'm already the camp's personal armorer, aren't I? The old man grinned. Can you finish before the next siege? Yongsun asked, his expression tightening. The smith checked his watch. 10 hours on the clock. That's more than enough time to cook up something special. Why the rush? Because Yongsun's eyes turned cold. I'm planning to absolutely annihilate the next wave. Morning light broke as Yongsun and Hanchul traded blows. You've leveled up, haven't you? You're different too. You used to fight like a wild animal, but now you're a straight-up monster. Hanchul groaned. Is that even a compliment? You're pulling off Tai Chi moves without even trying. I've always been a fast learner when it involves getting hit. Hanchul joked, sounding confident. Yongsun shook his head. But you're still not pushing your true potential to the max. My potential, Hanchul blinked. Yongxian gave a sharp, knowing nod. He lunged forward, activating the Treasury of Greed to download the forbidden Jinju Nigon family fist. It was a brutal close-quarters style legendary for weaving dark necromancy into every single strike. A secret art from one of the elite 5 great families. Hanchul didn't flinch. Seeing the fist coming, he roared and threw a heavy counterpunch. The collision was tectonic. A massive shockwave ripped through the training ground, kicking up dust everywhere. But Yongsun held the edge. His fist pulsed with the dark internal energy of the Nigan clan. The raw force sent the big man skidding back. Josiah, watching from the sidelines, gasped and covered her mouth. What was that weight? Hanchul whispered, staring at his numb, vibrating hand. That's a power fist. It's the key to unlocking your ceiling. Master the form first. Then we talk spiritual arts. Now Park Jongpil Yongsun barked. Like a summoned shadow, Park Jongpil materialized instantly. Boss, reporting for duty, what's the move? Jongsun questioned him, and Park Jongpil eagerly confirmed he had cleared his entire schedule just to be available. Perfect. Then you will be Hanchul's new punching bag for a while, Jongsun replied with a lethal smirk. The blonde youth instantly broke into a cold sweat, his face turning pale. Wait, what did you say, sir? Haha, boss. Listen, I actually just remembered I have this super urgent life-or-death thing to take care of. Jung Pil began shuffling backward, desperate to escape, but Jung Son wasn't buying that pathetic last-minute excuse for a single second. It was clearly a lie made up on the spot. I will use him however I please. No holding back, Han Chul declared. He snatched Jung Pil by the collar, dragging him away to a corner. I am counting on your cooperation, Park Jung Pil. You do not even know my name. No boss, save me, Jung Pil shrieked in pure, unadulterated terror. His deceiver constellation simply howled with sadistic laughter, finding his desperate pleas for mercy absolutely hilarious. Next, Jung Son turned to face Josiah. Unlike Han Chul's brute force, her style was fluid, perfectly leveraging her natural strengths. Her form was nearly flawless, leaving little room for critique. Yet, Jung Son abruptly sheathed his blade, cutting the session short. Your skill is elite, but your strikes lack weight. That is fine for fodder, but it won't work against a real monster. Raw speed and finesse have limits. Even her crowned constellation silently nodded, acknowledging this harsh but undeniable truth. She already knew. Deep down, the struggle against those red-skinned freaks had proven her power was hitting a ceiling. She bit her lip, frustrated by her own weakness. Jung Son watched her calmly. Every time I step outside this camp, I am hunting boss monsters. They make these standard wave mobs look like mere child's play. So that is your secret, Josiah whispered, wide-eyed. You have been forging your strength in the fire of boss battles. Jung Son's gaze darkened with focus. Be ready. I predict a boss monster might appear in the very next wave. It was more than a guess, it was the truth, though he could not reveal his foresight. Now Josiah had to step up. He gave her a firm, encouraging nod. From now on, I am counting on you to lead the Cha district well. I will, she chirped cheerfully. Time flew by until a sudden glowing system window shattered the temporary peace. The countdown to carnage had begun. Warning, Chapter 1, Adaptation. 5 minutes until the 10th monster wave hits. Meanwhile, the old craftsman Go Jong-so had finally finished forging the armor, using that mysterious stone Jong-son provided. Well, how does it feel? He asked. Jong-son donned the gear, testing his range of motion with a few sharp pivots. Item identified Crimson Wolf armor, rank C-, a specialized set of defensive gear crafted for high-tier combat. Forged from Crimson Wolf hide and Stone Monkey jadeite, passive effect, boosts total attack power by 10%. Additional traits. Inflicts fear on weaker enemies, while massively skyrocketing defense and durability. Jong Son scanned the details. He nodded in pure satisfaction. This is incredible. It honestly blows my original expectations out of the water. A C- rank, unbelievable, but given it was forged using Barris's legendary techniques, the insane quality made sense. Seeing Jong Son's reaction, Go Jong-so and his divine patron shared a wide, triumphant grin of pride. The Golden Crown warrior boasted that his own celestial essence was woven into every fiber of that armor's performance. With the clock ticking down to war, Jong Son turned to the old man with a serious look. Sir, get inside the forge and stay safe. But Go Jong-so scoffed. No way I am staying here to watch my masterpiece shine. Besides, you are going to crush them easily anyway, right? The old man added, flashing a confident thumbs up. He was dead certain Jong Son would keep him safe. Facing that unwavering trust, Jong Son just offered a small smile. Fair enough. Just make sure you stay well behind the lines where it is actually safe. Then the sky bled red. Notification. The final 10th wave has begun. Surmount the challenge and prove your worth. They are here, a voice screamed. Exactly as Jong Son predicted, the final nightmare was finally knocking at their door. A massive tide of red wolves and apes flooded the horizon. Strangely, the crowd around him actually looked relieved. Wait, these are the same losers we already beat. Where is the boss? There is just a whole lot of them. Josiah stepped forward, taking command, as the swarm closed in. Stay focused. These are the same monsters we have already crushed. Hold the perimeter at the fence, she ordered. But then, a bone-chilling howl tore through the air from the distance. Every head turned. Faces drained of color as a massive, battle-scarred silhouette emerged from the shadows. A monstrous wolf, Red Fang Kanan, had entered the fray. A system alert pinged, confirming everyone's worst nightmare. It was the boss. But as the ground began to shake, they realized Kanan was not coming alone. Hanaji's scream pierced the air. As Red Tusk Bark, the monstrous boar, finally burst onto the scene. Joining the fray was Red Claw Yasak, a terrifying armored ape. That made 3 massive raid bosses. The 10th wave had them trapped. 3 lethal monster hordes were closing in from every side. Wolves, boars, and apes, the battlefield was a nightmare. Seeing the odds, the hunters' hearts sank. Panic spread like wildfire. We're finished. There's no way out. Commander, give us an order. All eyes darted to Josiah, searching for hope. But the elite swordswoman was frozen, drenched in sweat. Her mind went blank under the pressure. I don't, she stammered, completely lost. Fear paralyzed her entire body. But before she could even breathe, our hero was already moving. Jong Sol launched himself forward like a guided missile, channeling the lethal, extreme heart-shattering art. He infused his strike with the third form of the Blood Wolf sword art for maximum devastation. His advancing strike roared with power as he locked eyes with his first prey, the Wolf King Kynan. Taking down the leader instantly was the only way to shatter their formation and ignite everyone's courage. With a blur of speed, Jung Sol's blade tore through the beast, forcing a terrified shriek from its throat. The sheer power gap triggered his gear's hidden effects. The red wolf armor began radiating pure dread. Combined with the gray wolf's cloak, the surrounding predators were consumed by an overwhelming primal fear. The pack scattered in chaos. Jung Sol didn't stop roaring at Josiah and Kang Hancheol to wake up. Snap out of it, his voice boomed, jolting the two warriors back from the brink of despair. Then Jung Sol unleashed his magic. Black Tower Mastery surged, supercharging his lethal chain lightning skill. A blinding pillar of electricity erupted from his hand, sending Kynan into violent bone-rattling convulsions. The beast looked pathetic, tongue lolling out in agony. Even Jung Sol was taken aback by the sight. Was this monster always such a joke? It used to be a walking massacre. Am I just that strong? But the fight wasn't over. Pushed to its limit, the boss triggered its ultimate rage state. Notification: Red Fang Kynan is now berserk. The wolf's fur glowed crimson, burning like hellfire. Its bloodshot eyes fixated on Jung Sol before it lunged with the force of a falling meteor. Jung Sol didn't flinch. He remembered this move from his past life. It was a camp-wiping disaster back then. Now he knew every rhythm. He'd used the beast's own momentum to deliver a fatal counter. He drove his steel straight toward the wolf's snout, but the monster's jaws clamped down mid-air. Jung Sol smirked, pouring raw strength into his grip and ripping his blade free from the beast's maw. Before the monster could blink, he vaulted high into the air, aiming for the perfect kill shot. Dropping like a guillotine, he buried his sword deep into Kynan's skull. The beast died instantly. System named monster, Red Fang, Kynan defeated. You've silenced the alpha of the Red Pack forever. Contribution points plus 4,000. For the solo kill, you receive a bonus of 4,000 more. Item acquired: Kynan's Fang. With the leader down, Jung Sol immediately activated his most broken ability, Gluttony engaged. He began devouring the boss's essence to fuel his own rising power level. Absorption complete, strength plus 5, agility plus 10. His stats were reaching legendary heights. The surviving wolves watched their king fall. Their predatory instincts were replaced by cold, paralyzing terror. Tails tucked, they slunk away into the shadows. Jung Sol watched them with nothing but cold disdain. "They're broken," he muttered. Turning to a nearby hunter, he gave a simple, chilling command. "Mop up the trash for me." The man nodded frantically. "Right away, sir." Jung Sol bolted toward the next hotspot. The wolves were handled. It was time to hunt the rest. Elsewhere, Hancheol was locked in a brutal contest of strength against the massive boar leader Bark. It was a pure clash of titans, neither side yielding an inch in their violent tug-of-war. Classic Hancheol Jung Sol thought, impressed by the man's raw, unyielding power. Bark roared, slamming its hooves to trigger earthquake. A devastating shockwave tore through the ground toward Hancheol. Hancheol just grinned, smashing his own fist into the earth to create a counter-tremor of pure force. Using one tremor to cancel another, Jung Sol watched, impressed by how perfectly the guy synced with the constellation Agares. Approaching his ally, he threw out a challenge. "Do you still remember the Nidang fist techniques? I've got the first form down." Hancheol confirmed. "Perfect, just mirror my movements." With a sharp click, Jung Sol returned his blade to its scabbard. He suddenly blurred into motion, darting past the massive boar leader before the beast could even blink. But the real show was just starting. Jung Sol began flooding his knuckles with raw internal energy. Empowered by his inner chi, the first form of the Nidang fist, the Gangxi strike glowed with lethal power. With a thunderous roar, Jung Sol buried his fist into the boar's tusk, shattering the bone into a million splinters. On the flank, Hancheol was already locked in, ready for the follow-up. Even his cosmic patron was pitching in. The old man, riding a crocodile fish, didn't hesitate, channeling its devastating earthquake authority directly into its contractor. Gang Hancheol's Gangxi fist surged with power. As the system alert blinked out, Hancheol's eyes went pure white. He drove his fist straight into the beast's snout, the sheer force launching the boar's massive frame sideways. That single blow punched the monster's ticket to the afterlife. "You have slain the named boss, Red Tusk Pag." Hancheol stood there, trembling, staring at his hands in total disbelief at the destruction he just caused. "Man, is this what peak power feels like?" he whispered. Jung Sol gave a satisfied nod. "Not bad, kid. Eventually, you won't even need a god's help to hit that hard." Hancheol went silent, lost in thought as he examined his glowing fist. Ignoring the moment, Jung Sol triggered Gluttony to feast on the fallen boss's stats. "You have devoured Red Tusk Pag. By consuming its core essence, your strength has surged by 5 points. Your stamina also jumps by 10. High above, the starving prince constellation is absolutely vibing over the delicious monster meat." Wiping his hands, Jung Sol looked back. "Hancheol, take out the trash and finish the rest of these boars." "Got it," he replied. "Leave it to me." But the dungeon isn't cleared yet, Jong-sol realized, sprinting toward the final boss's lair. Elsewhere, Yu Se-ah was in the fight of her life, desperately holding off a tide of monkeys closing in. "Keep your heads up. If you are bleeding out, get behind the shield wall now," she commanded, rallying her terrified team. While her blades carved through the horde, Se-ah was performing way above expectations. She definitely has that natural protagonist energy, especially with that divine buff. Jong-sol smirked to himself, just as a familiar, annoying voice echoed through the trees. "If you are so tough, come catch these hands." "Oh wait, you can't." Jong-sol froze for a split second, thinking there was no way that idiot was actually here. He turned his head and yep, he was right. It was Park Jung-pyo. He was sprinting for his life with arms full of stolen bananas, leading a literal army of monsters. "Too slow. Losers. Are you mad enough to cough up blood yet?" Haha, Jung-pyo's trash talk was top tier, driving the apes into a murderous frenzy. Unfortunately for them, they were too slow to even touch his shadow. Jin-woo was literally wheezing on the ground from laughter. Jong-sol just shook his head. Where does this guy come from? And why is he actually being useful? He wasn't just baiting them, he was actively looting the apes' gear while running. Talk about elite theft. That is the signature skill of the 6th Demon King Belphegor. Well, a win is a win, I guess. Back at the front lines, the ape leader Isak swung its massive blade with bone-crushing force, shattering the group's magic barrier like glass. Realizing the danger, Se-ah screamed, "The shield is gone. Everyone retreat to the back. I will stall the boss." Suddenly, Jong-sol appeared at her side, catching her completely off guard. "Jong-sol, what are you doing here? Is the other flank okay?" He gave her a calm, reassuring look. "Everything else is handled. No need to stress. Let's wrap this up together, shall we?" "Thank you so much." The girl nodded, regaining her focus. Suddenly, Isak let out a blood-curdling roar and lunged at them, both a fatal mistake. As the ape charged, Jong-sol and Yu Se-ah didn't flinch. They both rocketed forward to meet the beast. The young woman struck first. Se-ah blurred into a whirlwind of steel. Her dual blades rained down a barrage of strikes, forcing the ape leader to hide behind its shield just to survive the onslaught. For a dual wielder, a shield-bearing tank is a nightmare matchup. Plus, this monster actually has a high battle IQ. It uses that shield like a pro. Jong-sol analyzed her form while standing back watching her flow. Her sword skill is top-notch, but her movement is completely off. Her feet simply can't keep pace with her hands. With a heavy sigh, he stepped into the fray to give her a live lesson. "Se-ah, watch closely." "Copying my footwork," she gasped, her mind reeling because their current predicament was hardly the place for a tutorial. But Jong-soon just smirked. Real combat is the ultimate teacher. Activating his greed treasury, he summoned the mercenary King Camille's legendary dual blade mastery. This technique was ranked among the top 5 styles, specifically renowned for its otherworldly footwork. Moving like a leaf caught in a gale, it was untraceable. To Juseoha's eyes, Jong-soon became a blur of erratic shifts and dodges, completely shattering the enemy's rhythm. "What kind of insane movement is this?" she marveled. But Jong-soon wasn't done yet. Lunging at the ape leader, he unsheathed his hip dagger and launched into a spinning mid-air strike. 2 lethal arcs tore into Yasak's shoulder. Seeing the opening, Juseoha inhaled sharply and mirrored Jong-soon's ghost-like steps as she surged forward. Side by side, they executed a perfect pincer maneuver, shredding the beast until its roars turned to shrieks. Its shield was useless against their speed. Seeing her synchronize with him, Jong-soon gave a sharp nod. "Good. Push it. Go faster." Juseoha gritted her teeth, pushing her limits until her movements blurred. A lethal vortex formed around the ape leader Yasak as the duo unleashed a relentless storm of steel. Slashes rained down from every angle, carving into the ape's flesh until it shrieked in pure agony. Exhausted and broken, the beast finally dropped its guard. This was the exact opening. They needed to end it. With a perfectly synchronized strike, they decapitated the red ape instantly. System named monster, Red Claw, Yasak slain. Contribution points increased by 4,000. You've looted Yasak's blade. The remaining apes froze, watching their leader perish. Seeing that he had officially kicked the bucket, they turned tail and vanished into the shadows. 10th wave cleared. Victory belonged to Jong-soon's crew. "It's actually over," Juseoha exhaled, staring at the screen. First trial adaptation. Quest complete. 10 waves survived. You have officially cleared the first chapter of the tutorial trial. No more waves. We did it. The twins cheered, tears of relief streaming down their faces. But Jong-soon knew the truth. The celebration was premature. Right on cue, a new window flashed before their eyes. Juseoha's jaw dropped. "Jong-soon, what now?" The next phase arrived exactly as predicted. Tutorial Trial, Chapter 2, Movement. Objective: cross the plains. Time remaining 167 hours. Time to move out, Jong-soon stated. The news sent a wave of anxiety through the group. Leaving their safe zone felt terrifying. They'd finally adjusted to this hellscape. The adaptation phase had done its job too well. They had conquered the wild through sheer grit. Now abandoning that comfort zone was a bitter pill to swallow. As panic began to set in, Juseoha took charge. Everyone stay focused, while the others shook. The twins were surprisingly hyped. Where to next? Maybe there is a village nearby. First thing I am doing is finding a hot bath, Handan joked, breaking the tension. Aji pondered, and if monsters jump us on the road, so what if they do? We have survived everything so far, haven't we? They yelled together, their eyes beaming with hope. Their infectious energy shifted the mood. They were right, they'd survived a nightmare. What else could the world throw at them? The twins had single-handedly saved the group's morale. Jungsoon watched them sighing as the duo shot him a knowing look and a thumbs up. They saved the day again. The group quickly set to work clearing the battlefield's remains. Moving like a well-oiled machine, they prepared monster meat over roaring fires. Mr. Go handled the pelts. With so many kills, the workload was massive but efficient. Everything moved fast. In his past life, survival was a solo, miserable struggle. He'd fled camp alone back then. Now he watched the Han twins, Aji and Handan, whispering together in the shadows about something in the distance. Acting tough, they still cling to my barrier's safety, he noted. Jongsun cleared his throat. Oh, it is Mr. Bloodwolf. Hearing that cringe alias, our hero's expression instantly soured. Bloodwolf. Seriously, Jongsun fumed. Titles here are more than just flashy names. When players stack enough feats, the system cements their legacy into a permanent title. These aren't for show, they define a player's entire build. Some grind for glory, but most fail. Many end up with humiliating tags they'd rather hide. Let's see. Bloodwolf. On second thought, Jongsun realized it actually sounded pretty fire. He reconsidered his stance. Spotting him, the twins' faces lit up. Hey, why the sudden visit? Coming to hang out. Snapping back to reality, Jongsun shook off the title drama and spoke up awkwardly. Thanks, for earlier. Across from him, the siblings froze in absolute shock at his gratitude. They stood paralyzed for a heartbeat before their faces twisted into wide, mischievous, teasing grins. Chill, it was nothing. We're all leaving anyway. Consider it payment for the wood. Back to Jong Sunday. Not one to owe anyone, he forced himself to offer help. So, is there anything else I can do? He asked, trying to keep his cool. Anything, well, actually. Hanaji's eyes sparked with a memory. Follow me over here. She led him to a clearing filled with massive, stitched-together monster hide sacks. Jongsun's eyes narrowed as he inspected the pile. Wait, are these for the casualties? Bodies. Are you for real? Behind him, Hanaji felt an intense urge to facepalm. They're sleeping bags, genius, she sighed. Oh, so that's what these are. Is this the camp's barracks? Jongsun realized his isolation was slowing down his progress. Keeping my distance was a mistake, he muttered. But why show me this pile? Han Dan explained. We need to transport rations and gear. A cart is the answer. But there's no way we can push a heavy cart alone, she added. She's actually a strategist, Jongsun thought. So why don't you guys build it? How would we even move it? Han Dan countered. Jongsun just smirked. I've got a plan. He weighed his options, but only two paths remained open. Taming a beast was out. That left him with only one dark alternative. Decision made, Jongsun tapped the treasury of greed, activating Skeleton Arise. This necromancer art pumps mana into remains to reanimate the fallen. Arise, Jongsun commanded. Suddenly, the bones before them rattled and stood with eerie precision. The sight sent shockwaves through the camp. What in the world is that nightmare? They shrieked. Meanwhile, a skeletal boar marched up to Jongsun, bowing its hollow head. Relax, it's under control, he assured the crowd, though they still looked terrified. Is that thing really safe? Someone stammered. Their leader, Yusowa, stepped forward bravely. Can I touch it? She reached out gently, placing a hand on the creature's skull. Bound by Jongsun's will, the undead beast remained perfectly still, not moving. Whoa, it's like a pet. Can I try too? The survivors swarmed, suddenly fascinated. Go ahead, Jongsun permitted, knowing the skeleton only obeyed his direct commands. The mood shifted instantly. Perfect. As the shock wore off, Jongsun inspected the gear. These bags are actually top-tier quality, he noted. The eccentric prince rubbed its belly. What a legendary meal. The constellation roared in satisfaction. Jongsun shook his head. Since you're full, take a break, he muttered, turning his focus back to the trial. Chapter 2 of the tutorial trial. Let's see what Destiny has in store next. He began planning his next move. Chapter 2 of the tutorial trial, He pondered the road ahead. Bitter ghosts of his past began to resurface, instantly killing the vibe. But the past is just dead weight. Focus on the now. If I blow this opportunity, there's no turning back. With that resolve, he locked in. Just as he tried to calm his mind for some shut-eye, a single obsidian feather drifted onto him. Snatching his attention, the ravenous crow gestured with its beak. It was fixated on Jangsun's blade. Driven by pure avarice, the constellation demanded a tribute. It wanted that sword, and it wanted it now. And why should I? Jangsun countered, despite having already pilfered plenty from the crow's private hoard. Naturally, the crow didn't take the rejection well, and immediately pivoted to threats. One wrong move, and It would revoke his vault privileges. Jiang Sun just smirked, completely unfazed by the divine flex. Go ahead, try me. He wasn't bluffing. He already had the math figured out. Tapping into Mammon's power earlier sparked a realization. I thought he was just being generous. I was wrong. The power I'm wielding exists independently of your actual treasury, doesn't it? Jiang Sun grinned. It's not that you won't block me from the vault, it's that you physically can't. This strength was forged in Mammon's tomb before my regression. When the physical tomb vanished, the essence stayed. His core power became mine. So Mammon's empty threats, totally irrelevant at this point. Mammon's presence flared with lethal intent. The ravenous crow unfurled its wings in a terrifying display of fury. Seeing the backlash, Jiang Sun dialed it back. Provoking a god-tier entity like this is a high-stakes gamble. He softened his tone. Look, I never said no, but Durandal is my current ace in the hole. Let's compromise. I'll work with the Demon King to forge a perfect replica of the blade instead. Mammon is the king of fakes anyway. Most of his hoard is just high-end copies, Jiang Sun noted. The crow paused, intrigued. Adding another legendary artifact to the collection, that's a win. In exchange, Jiang Sun added his price grant me passage into the true treasury. Mammon hesitated, visibly annoyed by the mortal's gall. But Jiang Sun knew exactly where he stood. Right now I can only borrow the energy. The true artifacts are still out of my reach. As the ebony bird glared him down, the ravenous crow searched for a reason to decline. Sensing the tension, Jiang Sun quickly clarified. I'm not asking for an unfair trade here. I only need the low-tier scrap sitting right at the entrance of the vault. The bird finally chilled out. Jiang Sun recalled his previous life, remembering the vault's intricate layout. Mammon hoards the S-tier loot deep inside, meaning the entrance is just filled with common goods. Trading entrance-level junk for a legendary weapon like Durandal, that's a massive steal for Mammon. Jiang Sun calculated the odds. After a tense silence, the crow finally signaled its agreement. The pact is sealed, Jiang Sun smirked. Without hesitation, he grabbed the blade to begin the ritual. He sliced across his palm, letting the crimson ritual bind their fates together. Blood stained the crow's feathers as the pact was forged. Destiny was now intertwined with greed. Access granted. As the system message faded, the blood on Jiang Sun's hand surged toward the sword. The weapon vanished into Mammon's grasp. Perfect. I'll have exactly what I need soon enough. Jiang Sun prepared to step into the true vault of avarice. The scene shifted instantly. Whether it was his soul or his physical body, he was suddenly standing amidst endless riches. The foyer was packed with raw materials and glowing vials, just as he'd predicted. No epic gear here, just top-tier consumables. Then a specific potion caught his eye. Well, what do we have here? Jiang Sun muttered, reaching out to inspect the shimmering bottle. Elf Forest Dew. Pure essence harvested from the leaves of the world tree itself. Without a second thought, our hero popped the cap and downed the entire thing. He exhaled, feeling the surge of power. Meanwhile, a frustrated Mammon watched his every move. I open the door, but don't get cocky. Touch the wrong artifact and you're dead. Jiang Sun just smirked. Relax. I know the rules. Jiang Sun couldn't stop overthinking. Even after securing the legendary Durandal through that trade, a heavy weight of worry pressed on him. I'll only draw this blade when it's absolutely vital, trust me, he muttered. Sunrise hit the camp and the hustle began. Survival gear was already being loaded onto makeshift ox carts, constructed with impossible speed. Move it, how are you guys so fast? My cart is a tank, loaded up. Han Dayun shouted, grinning, but her sister wasn't having it. Mine is way tougher, she fired back. Okay, relax. Yu Sola interjected, playing peacemaker. They're both solid. No need to turn a wagon into a war zone. Suddenly, Jiang Sun reappeared from the shadows, jogging toward the group. Need an extra pair of hands. Then he spotted a stranger staring intensely at his cart. Wait, who is this guy? No memory surfaced. Did he die? Before my past life regression even started, Jiang Sun's brow furrowed. The bespectacled man jumped as he realized Jiang Sun was looming right there. Oh, my bad, I was just spacing out. Something on your mind, Jiang Sun pressed. The man adjusted his frames. No, it's just fascinating. Even with magic, how does that thing stand? No tendons, no ligaments, not a single muscle. Is that web of black smoke between the joints actually holding the entire skeleton together? Jiang Sun froze, eyes widening. Black smoke. This guy can actually perceive the flow of mana. His insight was surgical. He's a natural. Could he have an affinity for the dark arts, Jiang Sun wondered. The four-eyed guy caught himself realizing he was geeking out and scrambled to explain. Sorry. Just a professional habit. A habit. What are you, a surgeon or something? Jiang Sun asked. Not quite. I'm a grad student specializing in human anatomy research. Oh, right. I'm Baek Hyun. Too bad my degree is useless here. It won't heal wounds or boost stats. He laughed nervously, scratching his head. But Jiang Sun saw a goldmine of untapped potential. What happens when an anatomy expert masters mana control? He could become a monster. He might even outshine Sola and Hancho. Jiang Sun smirked, gesturing for Baek Hyun to take a seat. I should really get back to helping the others, Baekhyun stammered. Relax, this won't take long, Jong-sun insisted. He unsheathed his hip dagger, carving a precise circle into the dirt, and ordered him inside. Suddenly, an eerie, ancient magic circle flared to life at his feet. Reaching into the treasury of greed, Jong-sun pulled out a pulsing, dark magic stone, a catalyst for the feared Black Tower sorcerers. He slammed the gem into the center of the seal, igniting a violent eruption of purple mana. Baekhyun stared, mesmerized by the surging power. Is this the smoke from before? He gasped. Jong-sun ignored him, stepping silently behind the young man. He gripped Baekhyun's shoulders with a vice-like hold. This is gonna sting. Bite down and don't let go. Wait, what? Baekhyun started. Jong-sun shut his eyes, focusing every ounce of his intent. He was forcing the Black Tower's forbidden sorcery to awaken within the student's soul. Raw, chaotic energy flooded into Baekhyun's veins. The sheer agony was so overwhelming that his eyes rolled back into his head. Keep your mouth shut, or your heart will literally detonate, Jong-sun barked. Baekhyun slammed his jaw shut, fighting the scream. Jong-sun pushed harder, watching the kid's internal circuits. This level of resilience, the guy was a prodigy. Inside his chest, swirling vortexes of mana were beginning to forge a permanent mana circle. It felt like a giant's fist was crushing his heart. A lesser man would have blacked out instantly. He realized through the haze. It's done. Your core has stabilized, Jong-sun complimented. Impressive. You drained that high-grade stone like a sponge. That's some serious talent. Jong-sun gave a satisfied nod. He summoned a boar skeleton, positioning it right before the gasping student. Test your new strength. Baekhyun took a breath and reached out, his fingers trembling. He flooded the bones with dark mana, rewriting the creature's very essence with surgical precision. He was building mana muscles and reinforcing every joint. It was slow, but the structural integrity was insane. So this is why those sorcerers obsess over anatomy. Jong-sun mused, watching the masterpiece unfold. Baekhyun finalized the modifications. Get up, he commanded. The beast looked compact yet lethal. Baekhyun's pulse quickened with pure thrill. Seeing his passion, an ancient celestial being turned its gaze toward him. The corpse of destruction now watches player Baekhyun with intense curiosity. Meet Gamajin, the 4th-rank Demon King and Grand Marquis of Hell. A dark legend was born. The camp finally had its first necromancer. Jong-sun felt relieved. Finally someone to handle the bone-raising duty. Flushing with gratitude, the young man sheepishly thanked his mentor. I feared being a burden to the group, he confessed softly. Stand tall, Jong-sun encouraged. Your talent is no longer hidden. Gamajin's interest proves your potential is god-tier. Baekhyun's eyes sparked. He gently stroked the skeleton, vowing to master this newfound forbidden power. Seeing his drive, Jong-sun assigned him a grueling first mission. He summoned a nightmarish winged lion from his treasury of greed. This manticore was a freak of nature, sporting massive tusks and manes. It possessed wicked bull horns, bat wings, and a lethal scorpion stinger. The horrifying sight sent the young man stumbling back in pure terror. What is that monstrosity? Meanwhile, the group prepared to march out. Chapter 2, The Trek. 151 hours to the goal. Jong-sun relaxed on a bone-pulled carriage like a true dark king. Stay sharp, Seo, Ah warned. Ambush could strike from anywhere. Eyes peeled. The group responded with a booming collective shout. Han Ari smirked at her twin, bragging about her superior ride. They're exactly the same, you flexor, Dawn snapped back in annoyance. Jong-sun smirked, watching the twins' powers evolve with every mile. Nearby, Baekhyun was grinding dark magic levels under Gamajin's watchful eye. The Demon King was vibing with his new contractor's insane growth speed. Everything seemed chill, but Jong-sun knew a bloodbath was coming. He just couldn't pinpoint exactly when the monsters would strike. To secure their perimeter, he summoned his loyal subordinate, Jong Pyo. Reporting for duty, Boss Jong Pyo waited for his scouting orders. Scout the horizon, Jong-sun commanded, pointing toward the distant plains. Wait, aren't we already watching the front? Go miles ahead, Jong-sun clarified. That's impossible on foot, it would take me forever. Fair point. Walking won't cut it, Jong-sun mused, narrowing his eyes. He instantly crafted a terrifying skeletal steed from piles of bone. Is that sweet ride for me? Jong Pyo's eyes practically turned into stars. I'll name him Baekguang. Thanks for the buff, boss. He mounted the undead beast and gunned it toward the horizon. His chaotic riding style made Jong-sun facepalm in utter disbelief. How did this clown even survive long enough to become a hunter? Jong Pyo was loving it, reminiscing about his old luxury sports cars. Best life choice ever, riding the boss's coattails is the move. His grin even caught the constellation's eye. That donkey-headed thief was practically wheezing, trying to stifle a laugh. Yo, quit digging up my cringy past. You're trolling me, right? Jong Pyo barked. Suddenly, a lethal blur whistled inches from his nose, catching him off guard. Before he could blink, a literal hailstorm of jagged darts began raining down. Panicked but desperate, he yanked out his wolf fur cloak to serve as a makeshift shield. "What the hell? Who's jumping me?" he screamed. Right then, his eyes locked onto the attackers. A massive swarm of neon green goblins emerged from the shadows. There were way too many of them. With zero options left, Jongpyo instinctively wailed and pulled a sharp U-turn, flooring it out of there. Skill-activated sprint, his constellation, that donkey-headed thief, absolutely lost it, howling with laughter. It rolled around, clutching its stomach. Meanwhile, the greenskins spotted their prey retreating and gave chase. They shrieked war cries, hot on his heels. "If I can just reach the boss," Jongpyo prayed. "He'll clear these mobs for sure." Gritting his teeth, he finally spotted the main party up ahead. "Boss, save me." But as he closed in, he noticed Jongsun muttering some sort of incantation. Wait, what? Suddenly, a massive fireball ignited in Jongsun's palms, illuminating the entire clearing. Jongpyo's eyes nearly popped out. Duck? Is he serious right now? Ignoring the screams, Jongsun launched the blazing sphere directly into the heart of the horde. Boom, total annihilation. "Nothing beats the smell of roasted goblins," Jongsun remarked, dusting off his hands. But the peace didn't last. Sensing another threat, Ju Soa barked out a desperate command. "Cover behind the carriages now incoming." The team looked up to see the sky darkening. Another wave of darts was plunging toward them. This way, the twins had already dove for safety. Huddling behind a carriage, Jongsun shouted, "Stick close to me." He accessed the greedy treasury, instantly mastering wide area shield, a specialized defense against massive volleys. Drawing power from the colorless magic tower, he conjured shimmering layers of translucent barriers. The shield enveloped them, ricocheting the darts harmlessly away. Suddenly, the Black Tower's laws resonated. Chain lightning surged with lethal buffs. Han Chiol let out a battle cry while Soa activated Tarantula's leg. Unleashing their ultimate skills simultaneously, the trio tore through the greenskin formation like paper. The sheer violence of the assault left the rest of the group staring in absolute awe. "Whoa, don't just stand there gawking, move it and back them up. We can't let them have all the fun." They exchanged nods, gripping their weapons for the counterattack. Time to teach these goblins a lesson. Nearby, Four Eyes Bichun joined the fray. He commanded his undead boar to charge, plowing through the monsters and sending them flying. "Bichun, if it's this hype now, I can't wait for the manticore to drop in." Under the relentless pressure, the remaining greenskins panicked and scattered like absolute cowards. Ambush cleared. Victory was theirs. Ju Soa immediately gathered the team to regroup. "Killer work, guys. Now let's hunt down the survivors before they regroup." "Bad idea. They're baiting us to their lair. Charging into the unknown is a death wish." Jongsun paused, calculating the risks. "Soa, take the group and move out without me." "Wait, what? Where do you think you're going?" she asked, her brow furrowing. "I'm going goblin hunting." He spotted Jongpyo limping nearby and decided to help. Tossing him a potion, he said, "Rough day, huh, boss? You're literally my savior." Jongpyo beamed. "Pop that low-grade heal and take 5 Jongsun," instructed internally. Stealth skills activated. Jongsun ghosted the retreating greenskins all the way to their hideout. Deep in the woods, eh? Judging by that wave, there must be at least 1,000 of them. Or double that. How do I crack this? Maybe just torch the entire forest. As he plotted, the scene shifts to the heart of the goblin camp. A lazy goblin sentry was halfway through a massive yawn while pacing his patrol. He suddenly froze as he stumbled upon another goblin twitching in a pool of its own blood. Before a warning could escape his lips, Jongsun manifested behind him like a phantom. "Relax, you're joining them in a second." No sooner were the words out than his blade pierced the creature's heart, ending its miserable life instantly. This lethal silence was all thanks to Yukira's legendary concealment, a forbidden art of shadows. It was a secret technique once used by the continent's most feared assassin to terrorize the high nobility. Suddenly, blood-curdling screams erupted everywhere, forcing Jongsun behind a massive trunk as a frantic pack of goblins dashed past. Wherever they were headed, their chaos was a total blessing. Perfect, Jongsun whispered to himself. Time to move while they're distracted. Seizing the moment the greenskins vanished, he slipped deeper into the enemy lines and uncovered a hidden dungeon, the Cunning Goblin Village. Achievement unlocked. You have received 2,000 bonus points. Touching the jagged stone walls, Jongsun's mind began to race. This place was a fortress. The chief's quarters sat at the center with a massive vault lurking just behind it. Total panic had set in as their ranks thinned. "Please, save me," a desperate plea shattered the silence. Catching Jongsun's attention, he turned to find several people crammed into filthy wooden cages like cattle. They must be tutorial participants. He felt a pang of pity, but playing hero now was a literal death wish. One slip up and everyone's dead. Shaking off the thought, Jongsun quickly vanished from the area to continue scouting the perimeter. Upon reaching the armory, our hero quietly channeled his lethal skills and silenced the guard instantly before activating Gluttony to erase every trace of the corpse. Target consumed. The Prince Constellation grumbled that both the flavor and quantity were mid at best. "Patience, Your Highness. Just gotta wipe the evidence first," Jongsun retorted smoothly as he finished the cleanup. He stepped cautiously into the warehouse, his eyes widening at the mountain of lethal hardware stored inside. From spears and plate armor to heavy shields, it was a total goldmine. Jackpot, he smirked. While Zhang Sun gloated, the hungry beast within was throwing a fit because it couldn't find any actual food. Ignoring the belly aching, he opened his greed stash and pulled out a high-tier spatial bag. A relic from the colorless magic tower, capable of swallowing an entire warehouse whole without breaking a sweat. Zhang Sun began shoveling everything into the bag. Scoring high-quality gear like this during a tutorial was insane luck. It's basically a budget version of Mamon's vault. Surprisingly spacious, Zhang Sun mused, but those words reached Mamon's ears immediately. The king in the tattered cloak scowled, feeling personally attacked by the comparison to a tiny bag. Fine, fine. It's an ultra-low budget version. Happy now. Zhang Sun sighed, humoring the grumpy crow before scanning the room one last time. Then he spotted a chest glowing with prismatic orbs. Mana stones. For real. A devious grin spread across his face. He'd just found the ultimate solution for that goblin horde. He gripped the stones tightly. Meanwhile, in the chief's quarters, a massive spiked mace slammed into the floor, as a warning to the trembling subordinates. Still no sign of the intruder, roared the chief Hogan cat. Useless trash. With a sickening crunch, he smashed the mace into a goblin's face without a second thought, before barking orders at the survivors. Find him now. My stomach is growling, and I'm losing my patience. Bring me the youngest human you can find. The terrified goblins scrambled out, glad to escape Hogan's fury. Morons. Their levels are absolutely pathetic, Hogan cat grumbled to himself. Facts. Totally agree with you there, a voice whispered from the shadows behind him. The chief whipped around in shock, but Zhang Sun was already faster, his dagger dancing across the beast's throat. Blood sprayed like a fountain. Who are you? Hogan stammered in a panic. But Zhang Sun wasn't about to play 21 questions while the village guards were still on high alert. He muttered, "No time for a Q&A, pal." Hogan gasped. But how? No sound. How did you get in? Zhang Sun raised an eyebrow, genuinely surprised the monster was still breathing after a lethal throat slit. A named monster, huh? Your reflexes are actually pretty cracked, Zhang Sun mocked, with a cold nod. But the goblin chieftain was paralyzed with pure terror. This human was a cold-blooded monster who didn't blink when aiming for his jugular. Cold sweat drenched his skin as reality set in. Trapped and desperate, his only move was to scream for his elite guards. Get in here now, he shrieked toward the exit. But Zhang Sun just smirked, ready to drop a massive reality check on him. Game over. You're too late, Zhang Sun whispered. With a sharp snap of his fingers, the entire goblin camp instantly transformed into a hellscape. Massive earth-shaking blasts ripped through the air. The chieftain Hogang cat scrambled to the window, his heart dropping into his stomach. My people, he stammered, staring at the inferno, swallowing his home. The culprit, highly unstable mana stones hidden everywhere. These raw mana ores are versatile, but their deadliest use is as enchanted tactical explosives that pack a serious punch. By imbuing them with detonation magic, they become lethal mana bombs. Even a low-grade stone can easily level an entire building. I rigged the entire perimeter, Zhang Sun explained with a chilling grin. This revelation pushed the chieftain past his breaking point. Blinded by pure rage, he forgot the power gap entirely. I'll kill you, he roared, lunging forward with his massive spiked club. It was a final desperate suicide charge, but Zhang Sun just leaned back effortlessly, ghosting past the chieftain's clumsy telegraphed strike. With a fluid motion, he drove his blade deep into the chief's throat, ending the monster's life before he even realized he'd missed. System notification named Boss Ho Gang Cat has been slain. Your contribution points have skyrocketed by 8,000. For achieving a solo victory against a named boss, you've earned a massive bonus of 4,000 additional points. You've acquired the loot item Ho Gang Cat's Spiked Club. Zhang Sun blinked, shocked that he'd ended the boss in just 2 hits. He was way softer than I expected. Usually players have to grind through waves of thousands of goblins before reaching the boss. Maybe the boss was nerfed because I bypassed the gate. He pondered this as a flood of new system alerts filled his vision. Congratulations, the hidden dungeon, Cunning Goblin's Lair, has been cleared. You've unlocked a legendary achievement for this flawless run. 20,000 more points were credited to your account. High above, the Starving Prince constellation watched with greedy, shimmering eyes. Seeing that gluttonous entity literally salivating, Zhang Sun realized his landlord was finally ready for a 5-star feast. My bad for the delay. Let's dig in, he muttered, activating his gluttony authority. You have consumed the soul of Hogang Cat. Stats gained agility +5, intelligence +10. Raw essence and mana are now flowing directly into your core and heart. Zhang Sun paused, genuinely stunned by the implications of the latest system update. Wait, gluttony can actually harvest mana. Meanwhile, the Starving Prince was eyeing the scene like a gourmet looking at a buffet. He's still hungry. Does this demon want me to serve up the entire goblin village? Zhang Sun wondered, slightly overwhelmed. There were over 1,000 bodies scattered outside. Devouring them one by one would take a literal eternity at this rate. Even the great demon, Belphegor, seemed to agree with his logic. To speed up the feast, he granted Jong-sun a power-up. System alert. The Starving Prince has leveled up your gluttony authority to rank 2. You can now vacuum up multiple corpses simultaneously. Mass consumption will trigger a special secondary nutrient absorption phase. A 4 times absorption bonus. The timing couldn't be more perfect. Jong-sun didn't hesitate to unleash his upgraded ability. "Alright buddy, go wild, it's all you can eat," he shouted as the enhanced skill surged through the area. Gluttony activated. The entire goblin village has been devoured. Ethereal fangs of the abyss are descending from the heavens. A colossal, terrifying maw ripped open the sky, biting down on the camp. Even Jong-sun stood frozen in absolute awe. I sometimes forget he's not just a hungry kid throwing fits. He's an ancient world-eating demon. Total consumption 2,101 goblins. The massive nutrient surge has boosted all your primary stats by 11. Tidal waves of mana are flooding your system. You have successfully condensed and forged your 3rd mana circle. Utilizing the Black Tower's secret breathing technique, you've unlocked the ability to cast high-tier 3rd-level magic spells. Your magical output has reached new heights. Jong-sun grinned like a madman, feeling the sheer raw power vibrating in his veins. Only in the 2nd chapter, and I'm already at the 3rd circle, you've officially shattered the tower's all-time speed record. For this impossible feat, you've been awarded 100,000 points. Ancient, magic-obsessed constellations are now fixated on your every move. The gods are buzzing. They want to see the human who broke the game's balance so early in the tutorial. Jong-sun felt a terrifying amount of energy coursing through his body. "This is only the warm-up," he whispered. Surveying the smoking ruins of the village, he knew the grind was worth it, but the real climb was still ahead. While system windows cluttered his vision with endless rewards, Jong-sun's mind was already focused on dominating the next floor. Evolution was the only goal now. For the moment, the Starving Prince lay dormant, finally full, and content within his soul. Divine eyes are fixed on you. The Cursing Crow ruthlessly severs all ties with low-rank constellations immediately. The 5th day constellation beams with a radiant, enchanting grin. Right then, an impossibly stunning presence manifests. A celestial beauty materializes before Jong-sun, leaving him totally spellbound. Meet Freya, the legendary goddess of desire. I've caught a top-tier god's eye. Usually these heavy hitters only show up at the tutorial's climax for elites, and strictly for pro-tier players. With 2 demons already flanking me, I just pray I don't disrespect Freya. Meanwhile, Mamoon glares at Freya with pure annoyance, though the goddess seems completely unfazed by his petty stare. The Cursing Crow growls, a warning, refusing to let anyone else challenge its dominance over my soul's contract. Wearing a cryptic smirk, the 5th day simply brushes off the frantic interference from the rival divine beings. The crow's feathers vibrate with pure rage. Seeing that a divine war hasn't broken out yet, Jong-sun exhales. He feels a massive wave of relief. She seems unbothered, even if the other side is clearly salty. This shouldn't be an issue. If I want to stop the Great Demon War, I'll need some divine allies. Moments fly by. Jong-sun has already liberated the group of terrified captives from their cruel goblin captors. "You actually did it. Thank you. I was certain death was coming. We'll never forget your incredible bravery today." The survivors sobbed. But Jong-sun hit a wall. Does he really have to drag these people along? Rescuing them was luck, but babysitting isn't part of the job description. Suddenly, an elder steps out from the huddle. Sensing Jong-sun's internal conflict, the old man approaches calmly. "I understand the burden you're feeling right now, Savior. We won't slow you down. We'll handle our own journey from here." Ah, so this man is their captain. He looks capable, and his team's eyes aren't filled with fear anymore. These people are true veterans now, hardened by the "Don't expect me to be your shield," Jong-sun declared coldly. "But if you follow, sharpen your resolve." The leader's eyes shimmered with pure relief. "Thank you. We owe you our lives, sir. Move out." "We march for 12 hours straight," Jong-sun commanded, signaling the departure. Meanwhile, Han Cheol had taken over the heavy lifting, hauling the massive supply cart alone. Jusoa watched him struggle. "Take a break, Han Cheol. We can all pull it together." But the stubborn warrior just grunted. "No thanks. This isn't work, it's training." Nearby, the ancient constellation on his crocodile mount continued honing his partner's legendary footwork. Jusoa bit her lip, turning back. "Do you think Jong-sun will really be okay?" Han Cheol didn't blink. "He's a monster, and he's only going to get more terrifying. Even more powerful," she gasped. But her shock was cut short by frantic footsteps. Park Jong-pyo's cart was barreling toward them at a suicidal speed. "What's his deal?" The cart screeched to a halt as Jong-pyo collapsed, retching violently onto the dirt. "Jong-pyo," the group screamed. Lee Hanu pushed through. "Move, let me check him." She channeled her healing light into him, but her face turned pale instantly. "It's poison," she hissed. Jusoa panicked. "Goblins, did they ambush him from the shadows?" "No wounds." He inhaled it. Suddenly, a sweet, sickly scent hit Hanu's nose. "Cover your faces now. The very air is toxic," she shrieked, her voice cracking. But the warning was a second too late. The invisible killer had already struck. Survivors collapsed, clutching their throats as white foam bubbled from their lips. Desperate Hanu turned to her patron Sir Max. But the blood lion remained cold. Choose who lives, he commanded. You can't save everyone. Hanu froze in total horror. A healer's nightmare playing God. If only Jong-soon were here, she sobbed, feeling helpless. Just as the group faced total annihilation, a sudden icy gust tore through the camp. It was Cool Breeze, a signature blue tower spell, washing the lethal toxins away. Usually a mundane utility spell, but in this moment it was a literal miracle. The air, it's clean, Han-da-eun gasped as the deadly fog finally vanished. There he was. Jong-soon had returned just in time to stop the Reaper's hand. Boss. You're back, Jong-pyo wheezed, still foaming despite the clear air. Jong-soon didn't hesitate, reaching into his mental library for a white tower miracle. He cast a high-tier detoxification spell, surging mana directly into his dying comrade. The poison's deep, but I've got this, he muttered, working with surgical magical precision. Jong-pyo sobbed with relief as the agony faded. Thank you. Thank you so much. You really like making dramatic entrances, Jusoa joked, her heart finally slowing down. Blame Han Cheol's tracks, Jong-soon shrugged. They were remarkably easy to follow. Jusoa glanced at the ragged group behind him. And who are these new faces? Their leader, Yi-sung, stepped forward and offered a deep, respectful bow. Jong-soon saved us. If you'll have us, we'd like to join your ranks. Jusoa didn't hesitate, smiling warmly. Welcome aboard. We look after our own here. Yi-sung blinked, stunned. Just like that, you don't even know who we are. If Jong-soon accepts you, then so do we, she said, signaling the twins. Da-eun Aju. Get these folks some fresh clothes and supplies immediately. The twins jumped into action. Right away, follow us everyone, we've got spares. Once the chaos settled, Jusoa pulled Jong-soon aside. I'm surprised you brought guests. They survived this hellscape alone, Jong-soon noted. Their will to live is undeniable. And in this world, he added, willpower is the only currency that matters. A system alert flashed. They had conquered the trial of the poisonous mist. Every participant scored 1,000 points. Under Jong-soon's elite guidance, the crew surged forward. The trials fell like dominoes. Feeble legs cleared. Acid swamp obliterated. They slaughtered a pack of red bears, netting every member 2,000 points. Before my regression, these trials were death traps. Now, no one has to die. My future knowledge lets me raid hidden dungeons on the fly. Thanks to my memories, I have the ultimate map. Dungeons I couldn't touch before are now just target practice. I can solo these floors easily. I unleash Gluttony's power on the entire insect hive. Gluttony's fangs shredded the village. The starving prince constellation relished the insect essence. Apparently, that explosive pop is gourmet. Jong-soon felt a chill watching it gorge itself. After looting the dungeon, Jong-soon didn't stick around. He vanished into the shadows. I'll hit the fourth circle way ahead of schedule, he mused. Until Park Jong-pil's voice snapped him back. Bro found you, Jong-soon was genuinely surprised. I tracked your footprints, Jong-pil grinned. With scouting skills like that, Jong-soon had to give credit where it was due. He hated to admit it. But the guy was a natural-born scout. Jong-pil, oblivious to his friend's thoughts, asked if they were resting. No, we are moving out. I have secured the bag. Jong-soon replied, shaking his head. Right then, the rankings appeared. Jong-soon sat at rank 1, with 250,080 points. Seeing the massive score, Jong-pil started glazing him. Dude, you are literally a god. Your stats make my jaw hit the floor. Ignoring the hype, Jong-soon stayed focused. Hunting fragments makes being rank 1 easy, but there are monsters in this tower. Players born different. Some start with the backing of a high-tier constellation from day 1. Jong-soon turned to his comrade. Let us move bet hop on the White Wolf. I have mastered riding this beast. The speed is cracked. Time flew by again. The group just exited the Screaming Forest trial. Finally, it is over. What was that noise? My ears are literally bleeding, the survivors groaned. After the clear, Juseo took command. Great work. Let us set up camp and regroup. Yi-sung, you carried. Nah, it was a team effort, he replied humbly. Meanwhile, Jong-soon leaned against a tree, playing it cool while watching them. The crew looked energized. Their confidence was skyrocketing. But then, Yuseo Ah and Han Cheol decided they wanted all the smoke with Jong-soon. Duel me too, just let me finish handing out the food first. Jong-soon smirked. They were asking for a beatdown. Their potential was insane, which made training them actually fun. Not today, guys, Jong-soon declined. The big guy looked stunned. Why? Because we have reached the endgame. Guide Chapter 2, Movement. Success. You have reached the destination. Congratulations on smashing the second chapter. All participants get 4,000 points. Since you speedran the objective, everyone gets a 4,000 point bonus. The sudden ping shocked the group. Wait, are we already here? It is over. We actually survived, they cheered. Jong-soon, however, was deep in thought. No ranking alert, guess I missed first place this time. Some speedsters must have rushed the finish while we were looting. It stings, but the points from the hidden fragments are worth way more. I will take the win. Suddenly the system chimed in with more updates. Since they arrived early, the system's granting massive bonus perks for the remaining clock. It's time to grind hunt monsters to secure your rank and bank a 1.5 times point multiplier. Objective collision field. 113 hours and 17 minutes left. Ju Soa's face immediately turned pale at the news. Fear flickered in her eyes. Collision, fortifying positions. What is the system planning now? She wondered. What's the move, boss? Yi-sung asked. The leader's expression shifted her, mind racing through the possibilities. Before they could decode Chapter 3's secret, a chorus of blood-curdling animal shrieks erupted from the shadows. Owlmen, dwarves, and werewolves swarmed the area. No way! Are we already surrounded? Park Jong-pil yelled. As his friend panicked, Jung-hoon didn't hesitate. He stepped into the fray, ready to unleash his power. Activating his Ice Wave magic, a signature blue tower spell, he summoned a lethal surge of sub-zero energy. This freezing strike, now supercharged by Black Tower principles, was designed to shred anything in its path. With a casual flick of his wrist, Jung-hoon manifested a forest of jagged ice spears in midair. He launched the Icy Barrage, a relentless wave of death that tore through the charging monster horde. They were riddled with holes, instantly transforming into frozen statues before everyone's eyes. Then they shattered into a million pieces. The starving prince constellation watched drooling over this freshly served carnage. Satisfied with the recipe, Jung-hoon turned back with a stone-cold expression and addressed the group. Let's push as deep as possible while we have time, he commanded. The squad followed him into the heart of the forest. Jung-hoon mowed down everything in his path. Ju So-ah watched in awe, realizing his strength was truly monstrous. She couldn't help but admire his raw power. Meanwhile, Park Jong-pil was busy pulling his usual stunts. He was zooming around on his ride, baiting a massive mob. Bro, I've rounded him up for you. He grinned as a stampede of goblins chased his tail. Now the stage was perfectly set for Jung-hoon. With a simple point of his finger, Jung-hoon released a nuke of magic, sending them straight to hell. Is that it? We're making crazy progress. But then, the system guide flickered. Chapter 3, Collision. This is a survival match. Only 50% of the players who reach the goal will actually survive. That means total war between players. The final destination entrance is about to become a literal bloodbath. We need to claim the entrance before the chaos peaks, Jung-hoon thought, his brow furrowing in deep concern. High above the canopy, an eagle circled like a silent predator. The starving demon's mouth watered at the sight. This wasn't just some random bird, though. It was clear that someone or something was pulling the strings. Is that the target? A voice chuckled from the shadows. The one the gods are obsessed with. The constellation Yangjin's strange rebellion signaled its approval, though its aura was thick with seething rage. The goat-headed figure issued a fierce command to the beggar sect chief who stood trembling before his master. I don't care why you despise them, the chief muttered, but I'll follow your orders to the letter. When a god wants entertainment, it always results in a terrifying game, he said, eyes gleaming with malice. He brought a flute to his lips, playing a haunting melody that summoned an army of loyal monsters. They awaited orders. Meanwhile, after 2 days of constant combat, Jung-hoon's team reached the halfway point. Ju So-ah and the rest of the crew were leveling up fast, their combat skills sharpening with every kill. But Jung-hoon knew the real test was coming. He activated the Treasure of Greed, fusing it with the ears of Jobo. This ability belonged to a subterranean monster, with god-tier hearing and smell perfect for tracking the invisible. Their senses were so sharp they could detect hidden treasures through solid rock. Suddenly, a familiar scream shattered the air. It was Park Jong-pil. Bro, help me. Seriously help, he wailed, his voice cracking with pure terror. A massive tide of monsters was snapping at his heels. Wolves and owl beasts were closing in for the kill. Jung-hoon's eyes widened. Something was wrong. These weren't just average mobs. They were being driven by something else. Then he heard it. The haunting melody of Pan's flute. Jung-hoon's blood ran cold as the realization hit him. Not this guy again. Pan, the goat god of absolute chaos. In his past life, Pan was the first to notice him. Back then, Jung-hoon had played the puppet desperately trying to survive and please the fickle god's impossible demands. He had jumped through every hoop, but in the end, that bastard had given him absolutely nothing in return. To that monster, I was just a plaything. Once the fun ended, he threw me away. Rage boiled over as Jong-sun cursed his past life's stupidity. He forced his mind to go cold. Why now? I haven't touched Pan in this life. Wait, is it possible? Jong-sun paused, remembering when the constellation Po cut ties with all low-rank gods. Everything clicked. The puzzle was finally complete. So that's how they're playing it. His ego took a hit when Mammon blocked him, so he's hunting for payback. Lightning strike. He fried the monster swarm before they could blink. But he knew the real fight was coming. It can't end like this. I have to kill the source. Can the team hold the line? Not without me. He glanced back as the tank Hanchul activated his Declare War skill. Overwhelming aura erupted from his body. He nodded, sensing the plan. I'll hold the front. Go. Jo So-ah wasn't about to be outshined. You're not the only hero here, Hanchol. She triggered the second form of her tarantula footwork and blurred into a killing dance. She shredded through the monsters like paper. Jung-sun, you've got a plan, right? Hurry up and move, she smirked. Right then, Park Jung-pyo pulled up on his mount. Hop on, bro. Jung-sun froze in confusion. Seriously, just get on. I'm faster on my own feet anyway. But next time, warn me before you drop the magic. Fair enough. Jung-sun vaulted onto the skeletal beast and charged toward the chaos. He soon found the beggar chief playing a flute guarded by 5 massive minotaurs. Jung-sun slammed the brakes. 5 minotaurs, each as strong as a named boss. Then, the beggar locked eyes with him. He lowered the flute and let out a creepy cackle. You're early. I thought my little pets would keep you busy a bit longer. The man was a monster now. Horns tore through his scalp as he turned feral. His ears shifted into pointed goat appendages. One look told Jung-sun the whole truth. He'd performed a divine advent, sacrificing his humanity to become a celestial vessel. That's how he's controlling these beasts. You sold your soul for that power, didn't you? You gambled your life for a god's favor. Jung-sun's smile turned lethal, staring past him. He saw the puppet master. Hey, if the gods want blood, this loser is happy to pay. Kill him, the beggar roared. The beastly herd surged forward in a wall of muscle. They wanted Jung-sun pulverized. Unfazed, our hero dropped into his battle stance. A full frontal assault. I'll thin them out from a distance first. Lightning strike. The electric shock paralyzed the minotaurs mid-charge. But the nightmare wasn't over. Even as his guards froze, the beggar just grinned like a total psychopath. This is just the warm-up. He played the flute again. Answer my call, giant worm. The ground beneath Jung-sun began to heave violently. Suddenly, a massive, armored worm erupted from the earth. Jung-sun instantly tapped into the treasury of greed. He unlocked Earthwave, the signature seismic spell of the legendary Golden Tower. It turned solid ground into a drowning sea. Jung-sun slammed his palm onto the dirt. A kinetic shockwave ripped through the ground, shattering the worm's exoskeleton with a sickening crunch. From above, the goat god realized his pet was useless. Jung-sun was starting to go berserk. The debaucherous satyr is malding. He wants to see you paralyzed with terror. Consider it done, the beggar cackled, playing a melody that felt like nails on a chalkboard. The minotaur's skin flushed blood red as it dove headfirst into a violent frenzy. Berserk mode, the same nightmare from the Chapter 1 wolf boss. How do I kill this? Magic is useless now. Jung-sun's brow furrowed, just as he was calculating his next move. Mammon, watching the drama unfold, decided to back his boy up. Mammon has made his move. Mammon grants a temporary loan of your blade, with one condition: wipe that filthy goat off the face of the earth. Before the echo even died down, the legendary sword Durandal materialized within Jung-sun's iron grip. A surge of pure confidence coursed through him. Fine, then, I'll put this beauty to good use. Across the field, the berserk minotaur lunged, throwing a devastating haymaker. But Jung-sun didn't flinch. He charged head-on, ready to butcher the beast. The supreme polarity sword art was his secret, turning an opponent's own momentum against them. Darting past the beast, he guided the trajectory of that massive fist, with a flick of his blade redirecting the impact into the second bull's skull. The neighboring monster never saw it coming. Blindsided by its own ally's crushing power, it was sent tumbling back. Before the survivor could even process the chaos, Jung-sun loaded power into his quads and launched himself skyward. Descending like a meteor, he swung his blade in a lethal arc, targeting both abominations at once. Game over, he muttered as the two beasts detonated into a shower of gore, leaving the beggar chief completely paralyzed with shock. It's done, Jung-sun declared, pressing the cold edge of Durandal against the horned man's throat. Meanwhile, watching from the shadows, the goat-headed deity witnessed his avatar's humiliating defeat and lost his mind, screaming in rage through the interface. The debaucherous satyr howls in pure denial. He frantically commands his puppet to stand up. At the same time, Mammon barks an order: slaughter the beast and reclaim the divine sword now. Jung-sun turned his gaze toward the beggar chief, who lay twitching and foaming on the dirt. Even with Pan's lackey neutralized, Jung-sun didn't drop his guard for a second. This wasn't the end. With a sharp, arrogant smirk, Jung-sun turned his attention toward the heavens to taunt the god. How pathetic. He sneered, a deity so desperate for revenge he has to hide behind a mortal's skirt. His voice dripped with such venom that the goat-headed being actually stammered. The debaucherous satyr, completely rattled, asks if you're seriously addressing a god. Jung-sun just shrugged. Yeah, I'm talking to you. You've got plenty of ego. But you're too much of a coward to face the Demon King, so you're picking on me instead. Am I wrong? The deity's features contorted into a mask of pure, unadulterated fury. The debaucherous satyr is reeling. How could a mere human insect dare provoke a god? He unleashed a wave of divine pressure, trying to crush Jung-sun under the weight of his celestial aura. But despite the suffocating power, Jong Sun didn't even blink. What? Did the truth hurt? If you're that pressed, why don't you take it up with Mammon? He mocked. Suddenly, the towering silhouette of Mammon materialized behind him, throwing down the gauntlet. Mammon unfurled his massive obsidian wings, daring the goat to step up. The satyr's face flushed a deep, violent crimson, looking ready to pop. Jong Sun wasn't finished roasting him, yet his tongue was just as sharp as his blade. He kept the pressure on. You're weak, relying on your daddy's name just to bully humans. How sad. I didn't know gods could be this petty, he laughed mockingly. That final jab snapped the deity's last thread of sanity. Ignoring his avatar's safety, he began pumping massive amounts of raw power into the mortal vessel, forcing a grotesque mutation. Muscles swelled, legs warped into hairy hooves, and a monstrous hybrid emerged. The debaucherous satyr was attempting the forbidden, a direct descent. Descent is when a god hijacks a follower's body to cheat the tower's rules, a high-stakes taboo. Breaking the tower's laws carries a heavy price. First, the deities. Rank plummets for defying causality. Second, it puts a giant target on them for the system and other gods. But the real kicker, if they lose while descended, the penalty is catastrophic. That's why most gods would never risk it. But this idiot goat was blinded by pure, unadulterated salt. He just wanted to manifest and rip Jong Sun apart. But descent isn't a cheat code. A mortal shell can only house a tiny fragment of divine might, and at the end of the day, this goat was just a bottom-tier deity. Even with descent, he was way out of Jong Sun's league. As the power transfer peaked, Jong Sun didn't wait. He lunged with predatory speed, dancing Durandal across the beast's throat in one clean surgical stroke. The monster let out a final, pathetic wail, before the divine link shattered into pieces. The capricious goat's desperate descent has officially failed. The deity's status is shattering. The energy from its descent vanishes into thin air. System alerts are going haywire. Even with its head ripped clean off, the monster's consciousness still clings to life. Before being purged, it snarls a final threat. Jong Sun, you're dead meat. Jong Sun just hits back with a stone-cold gaze. Maybe don't invade during the day next time. He activates gluttony, ready to feast. Monstrous maws emerge, circling the terrified goat. The dark pressure oozing from them makes the god shake like a leaf. Stay back. Lay a finger on me, and my old man will erase you. He's desperate, praying. Jong Sun flinches. But Jong Sun is way past the point of mercy. Those jagged, razor-sharp teeth start tearing into the goat's essence. One bite in, and the demon inside is loving it. The Prince of Starvation purrs. Finally, some real gourmet food. His maw unhinges completely. Even a fool like the goat god finally gets it. Jong Sun has two high-tier gods in his corner. No way, how did a human get power from two different deities? Before he can process it, the jaws slam shut, gulping him down. The capricious goat's divinity has officially tanked. He's stripped of all divine rights. Meanwhile, the Prince of Starvation claims the flavor was weird but rich. With a satisfied smirk, the demon lets out a massive burp. Jong Sun is just standing there, speechless. He was actually low-key stressed about eating a literal god's power. Could Beelzebub actually handle this? Looks like his big gamble worked out. The patron of wealth is impressed. You're likely the first to solo a god. This early in the tutorial, Jong Sun, however, is checking his stats. He's confused why his power hasn't spiked. Hold on, why aren't my stats moving? Then he spots the pipes, dropped by the beggar sect leader. The item's stats flash before his eyes. Fairy's instrument, rank B, a mystical wind piece crafted from ancient reeds. It holds the divine spark of the god Pan. Skill 1. Seduction, tame beasts through music. Skill 2. Fear resonance. Paralyze foes with terror. Skill 3. Chaotic cry. Send enemies into a frenzy. All based on his playing skill. Jong Sun's eyes gleam with curiosity. Sick. Another legendary replica. But there's a catch. He needs musical talent. This'll definitely come in handy later. He stashes the pipes away. Suddenly, the system pings again. You've devoured the essence of Pan. The feast is complete. All stats jump by 10 points. You've claimed the rank of the shepherd god. You've unlocked the forest god's stigma. Suddenly, Jong Sun's hand begins to glow. A blinding light fades to reveal a ferocious goat head tattoo etched on his skin. One look, and he knows exactly what this is. A divine stigma. The mark of a true champion that shatters all human limitations. A stigma. No way. Gluttony is proving to be absolutely cracked. If he can keep snacking on gods, the thought alone makes him gulp. The system keeps spitting out data. Stigma details. Sealed forest god stigma. Level unknown. Divine energy detected. Pan's true power remains hidden. All core abilities are currently locked. Digestion in progress. Feed gluttony more to evolve this power. Jong Sun isn't even mad, it's sealed. I'm just getting started with this. Revenge against Pan just turned into a massive jackpot. Time to head back, he smirked, satisfied. This massive haul was way more than he'd bargained for. Meanwhile, Co Oz squad was fighting for their lives against the beastly tide, led by that goat-headed freak. It was a brutal grind, but the team held their ground with clinical precision, keeping their formation tight. Crap, another endless wave, a hunter groaned. But honestly, we're hitting way harder than we used to, right? You bet we are, another shouted, plunging their blade deep into a monster's gut with zero hesitation. Their rock-solid defense was all thanks to the incredible synergy between Baegun and Lee Ha-eun. Alongside Jong Sun's undead army, Ha-eun had unlocked an absolutely cracked new skill. A deadly ability that didn't just halt bleeding, it forced it. As the last beast fell, the squad cheered. Ha-eun caught her breath, flashing a grateful smile toward the celestial being watching over her. Thanks, Mr. Mad Badger. The Leo constellation cleared its throat, acting like it didn't even care. The deity grumbled whatever, while nearby Jongpyo paused as a strange melody cut through the chaos. A hauntingly beautiful tune echoed everywhere. Wait, where's that music coming from? Jongpyo wondered, completely baffled. The moment the notes hit, the monsters snapped, turning their claws on each other in a mindless frenzy. Coa stood frozen. The once organized beast horde had suddenly descended into absolute bloody chaos. Only one person possessed that kind of power. A soft smile played on her lips. Rewinding a bit after deleting the goat boss, Jong-sun had wasted no time leaping onto his undead wolf. He raced back on the mount. Jongpyo gifted him his mind, racing with worry for his teammates. Please let them be okay, he muttered, reaching the battlefield just as the tension reached its peak. To his surprise, they were holding their own. Turns out his squad was way more cracked than expected. He'd expected a total wipeout, but they'd managed to survive the onslaught through sheer grit and skill. Guess I'll give them a boost. Jong-sun pulled the legendary monster-controlling flute from his inventory with a smirk. He reached into the blind demon's treasury and pulled out a rare score, Turbulent Sea. This ancient Naga anthem was designed to mentally crush enemies and leave them defenseless on the field. The music pumped up his allies while paralyzing the monsters. Suddenly, the team's morale hit an all-time high. The beast formation crumbled instantly, and the humans began pushing the tide back with ease. It wasn't long before Han Chio delivered a devastating final blow, obliterating the very last monster. Ding, the system chimed. Quest complete. You have successfully crushed the revenge of the forest spirit. Jong-sun nodded, a cold smirk on his face. Pan's master plan had just been reduced to ashes. Seeing Jong-sun back in one piece, So-ah rushed over her face, lighting up with pure relief. Jong-sun, I knew that was you, thanks. But as always, Jong-sun played it cool, refusing credit. You guys had it under control, he shrugged. Just then, his loyal fanboy Jong-pyo came sprinting over. He looked ready to tackle hug him. Hyung-nim, I never doubted you. Jong-sun reacted instantly to stop the cringe. He palmed Jong-pyo's face mid-air. Before his rebirth, he'd hated this guy's guts, but things were different now. Since returning, he'd actually started to like the guy. Plus, he was just too useful to throw away. Jong-sun just nodded. Yeah. Anyway, here's your white wolf back. Mostly in one piece. Wait. White wolf Jong-pyo blinked, his voice trailing off as he stared at the mount. The beast's fur had morphed into a deep, bloody crimson. And of course, Jong-sun was the culprit. He'd pushed the treasure's power so hard that the poor wolf had literally turned red from the strain. Basically, the mount had been grinded so hard that its very appearance had permanently evolved. It was like the legendary red hare, the mythical beast that could gallop 1,000 miles in a day. A true war beast with a blazing mane. Holy crap, it's red, Jong-pyo screamed, losing his absolute mind. Jong-sun just scratched his head, feeling a bit awkward about how hard he'd pushed the poor thing. My bad, I ran it into the ground. But Jong-pyo gasped, Bro, this is exactly my aesthetic. Forget white, from now on you're the red wolf. Jong-pyo cheered, absolutely loving the upgrade. He was totally obsessed with the new edgy look. Observing Park Jong-pyo's infectious joy, Jong-sun hesitated to kill the vibe, but a reality check was necessary. Forget the aesthetics. This thing is structurally compromised from exhaustion. It's on the verge of total collapse. Eavesdropping nearby, Beacon stepped forward with an offer. Mind if I perform a quick inspection? Look, the bone specialist is here, Jong-pyo chuckled, desperate for any chance to salvage his mount. I am Beacon, the newcomer introduced himself before diving straight into the task. He scrutinized the red wolf's frame, delivering a swift diagnosis. Its overall resilience has significantly plummeted. Oddly, the bone density has spiked, but there is a fatal flaw with zero muscle mass. Every shockwave rattles the skeleton directly. Li-han listened intently, nodding as the grim reality set in. Unfazed, Jong-pyo continued simping for his pet. My wolf is a beast. I will protect this gift with my life. No cap, it is a masterpiece. The skeletal architecture is top tier, Baiken remarked, fondling the wolf's cranium. Watching two adults geek out over a literal pile of bones, Jong-sun felt a collective cringe and dipped. Alright, enough fanboying. Time is ticking. Don't let Red Wolf break. Let's move, Jong-sun muttered, scanning the horizon before approaching their commander. Sela, once the gear is packed, we advance. Sela gave a sharp nod of approval. Arrival in 24 hours. After a quick breather and regrouping, the squad trekked onward until they hit a massive vertical precipice. Peering over the edge, Jongpil shivered at the abyss. This drop is insane. The bottom is literally invisible. Sela stepped up, questioning Jongsoon. So this is the spot for the fortress. He gave a confident nod. Exactly. This cliff is our ultimate shield. Defense becomes a breeze. He stared into the horizon, deep in tactical analysis. This massive rock wall. It's the hard limit for Trial Phase 3. Even with my stats scaling, this is impossible. Rear attacks are officially off the table. As for the other players, they will burn out at the gate. Camping here basically guarantees we clear the third phase. That was the plan until Pan's interference happened. Other petty constellations might be lurking too. Salty gods with personal vendettas could easily send their lackeys to hunt me down. Staying vigilant is key. Jongsoon's blood boiled thinking about that goat-faced moron. Sela finalized the campsite and descended to rally the troops into action. Approaching the Han siblings, she signaled, "Operation Base Build starts now, bet." Finally, I have been itching to flex my skills. The twin sister cheered, hyped for the grind. Hanaji signaled Jongsoon. "Yo, main character, mind playing lumberjack and grabbing some timber?" "On it," he replied. "Count me in, Chulun." And Jongpil added, joining the gathering squad. But before the first tree fell, a system alert flashed across everyone's vision. Phase 3, the clash is live. Objective survival. Goal: outlast half the player base. Winner takes all, defeat a player to steal their progress. The group stood paralyzed by the brutal update. Only Jongsoon stayed stone cold, having played this game before. The mission was simple. Don't die. "The woods are probably turning into a slaughterhouse right now," he whispered. Right on cue, the forest erupted into chaos as players began butchering each other without mercy. Why? Why is everyone turning on each other?" One newbie shrieked, face drained of color. A predatory shadow loomed over him with a mocking smirk. "Still clueless, huh? This is why your squad is down to single digits. Please, I fought so hard to make it." He begged for his life, but his assailant just erupted into a fit of psychotic laughter. "And your struggle is my ticket out. One more kill and I am safe. You are the sacrifice." He white-knuckled his blade and charged. In a heartbeat, the hunt was on. Agonized cries flooded the woods. Meanwhile, in a different corner, a player received divine intel. From a hidden deity, the elderly silver-haired constellation barked, "This is your moment, seize it." Faced with the order, the man muttered darkly, "If I crush him, will your divinity truly be mine?" The silver-haired constellation sneered, "You dare question my word, mortal." Fury flared in the old man's bulging eyes, a reaction that told the man exactly what he needed to know. "Understood. I'll wipe out the target and his entire squad," the man smirked. Jongsun's fears were real rival. Constellations were finally hunting him down. Meanwhile, the nameless hunter's patron was still shrieking in his ear. "Move it. Unleash your true power and destroy them," the elder shrieked. For a prideful warrior, being barked at by a fossil was pure humiliation. He felt like a common slave. Silence was his only shield, but his mind burned with venom. "You arrogant fossil, I'm no slave. I only tolerated you for the borrowed strength. Keep barking. Once I claim my own authority, your leash is getting cut." He vowed to discard this trash patron, his teeth grinding with audible fury. Sizing up Jongsun's squad, he muttered, "They've wandered too deep into the lion's den." How did they survive the monster hordes, a scout wondered, just as another pointed ahead. "Leader, look," the hunter froze, following his subordinate's trembling finger. Cold sweat beaded on his forehead. "What? Did they build a freaking fortress?" Stunned, he whispered to his patron, "My lord, what kind of madness is this?" Instead of answers, the divine fossil spat out nothing but vile insults. The elder shrieked, "Quit stalling and attack, you useless coward." He clenched his jaw, swallowing his pride. Borrowing power meant dancing to the master's tune. His strength wasn't his own. He had to suppress his rage and focus. "Stay sharp, they're backed against a cliff. One solid push, and we win." White-knuckling his spear, the leader sprinted forward, spearheading the assault. But before he hit the fence, he slammed into an invisible shimmering wall. Face flattened against the shield, the leader hissed, "A barrier here." As he reached out, a lethal rain of arrows erupted from within the fortress. It was a direct hit. Inside, Jongsun was the one pulling the strings. Hands pressed to the earth, Jongsun roared, "Treasure of Greed, activate." Behold the legendary Kamelder defense, a masterpiece forged by a Black Tower commander. It was temporary, but it rendered the fortress an impenetrable sanctuary. Even Sele and Li Hanan, veterans of Jongsun's miracles, stood shell-shocked. Pure shock painted their faces. "How did you pull that off?" Sele gasped. Smirking Jongsun revealed the monastones looted from the goblin ruins. "Call it a souvenir from that goblin slaughter," he explained coolly. He was using those stones to overclock the Kamelder defense circle. The gems extended the barrier's life, buying them 5 crucial minutes of preparation. Sele watched him amazed. Jongsun always had an ace up his sleeve. The leader couldn't hide her grin. "You're full of surprises, aren't you, Jongsun?" It's like you're from the future. Her joke made Jong-sun flinch. Clearing his throat, he deflected. Order the counterattack. This wall is fading. Sally snapped to attention. Everyone battle stations. The squad roared in unison. They hauled out a massive catapult. Time to show them how we defend. Hanaji laughed as the order came fire. The catapult's arm snapped forward. A massive boulder tore through the air, screaming toward the shocked attackers. Confusion over the barrier turned to terror as a massive shadow engulfed them. Their formation crumbled under the catapult's impact. Seeing the chaos, little sister Han Dan pumped her fists, eyes gleaming with excitement. Total success. Hearing her, Hana flashed a cocky grin. Told you it'd work like a charm. Determined to keep up with the twins, the tank Han Tae-ho gripped his spear and put every ounce of muscle into a massive throw. Driven by his monstrous power, that spear hit like a heavy artillery shell, rivaling the catapult itself. Meanwhile, Jong-sun wasn't about to chill while the fight raged. He was basically a human war machine. Time to level the playing field, he muttered, focusing raw mana into the center of his palm. Channeling the Black Tower's dark arts, he conjured a colossal fireball and launched it straight into the fray. The explosion vaporized the enemies before they could blink. Defend the catapult. Push through that barrier, their leader screamed. As the captain barked orders, Jong-sun scanned the area. His observation skill flagged waves of incoming hostiles. They were swarming from the woods. Reinforcements. Looks like Mammon has a lot of haters in the heavens. Well, more kills mean more achievements, Jong-sun smirked. He reached back into the treasure of greed for something special. He pulled out a massive bow, along with a scroll containing the Grand Empire's elite archery secrets. It was a legendary style that once brought nations to their knees. He gripped the bow, feeling its heavy weight. Drawing the string back until the wood creaked in a perfect arc, Jong-sun finally let the arrow fly. The projectile tore through the air like a sonic boom, slamming into the dirt inches from a soldier's boots. Seeing the near miss, the attackers laughed. Wait, is this guy's aim actually trash? They sneered, thinking he was all talk, completely oblivious to the absolute carnage coming their way. Suddenly, the arrow pulsed with a faint glow before erupting into a catastrophic ground-shaking blast. A massive mushroom cloud of debris choked the sky. It looked like a tactical nuke had just hit. Notifications flashed as the unlucky duo got erased. You have eliminated player Kim Tae-hyun. +3,910 points looted. Player James defeated. +4,180 points looted. Jong-sun checked his balance with a cold smile. Decent haul. Too bad gluttony doesn't work on these weak players. Devouring Pan's contractor only worked because he'd already transcended to godhood. Alright, time for the main event, he whispered. Right on cue, the system announced a change. Alert player count dropped to 3/4. The starving ogres are now entering the arena. Jong-sun's eyes lit up. Finally, some real prey. These ogres will taste way better than those players. Aiming to max out his score, he looked at Seoha. Seoha, hold down the fort here. Soha bit her lip, worry clouding her face. Going solo. That sounds like a suicide mission. I'm more agile on my own, Jong-sun shrugged. If things get dicey, I can bail instantly. But deep down, he just didn't want her slowing him down. Suddenly, the giant Han Chol stepped up to volunteer. Count me in, Han Chol boomed. Jong-sun nodded. Fine. If it's you, I know you can pull your weight. They hopped onto their skeletal mounts and tore out of the base, galloping into the wasteland. So these ogres, Han Cheol asked mid-ride, are they actually as scary as they say? Beyond scary, Jong-sun replied. Even a tank like you would struggle in a fair fight. Instead of flinching, Han Cheol's eyes flared with excitement. The man was practically vibrating with battle lust. I can't wait to crush one, he growled. Jong-sun knew that look. Han Cheol was itching for a real challenge. Bullying small-time players had clearly gotten boring for him. Cooling his excitement, Han Chol asked, but where do we even hunt these things? Jong-sun just gave a chilling smirk. Don't sweat it. They'll find us whether we like it or not. Han Cheol looked confused, but his answer arrived much sooner than he expected. Just over the ridge, massive green-skinned titans were snatching up players like they were dolls. One-horned beasts with glowing crimson eyes were absolutely tearing through the squads with terrifying ease. Seeing those towering monstrosities, even Han Chol felt a chill. What in the world is that thing, he yelled. Jong-sun surveyed the carnage. A battlefield nightmare. Looks like they've already started their feast. 2 of them at once. Perfect. We'll split them up, 1 for you and 1 for me. 1 each. Jong-sun pulled out a bone dagger, his calm confidence grounding Han Chol's soaring adrenaline. Every day of hellish training leads to this. I can feel the power. 1 strike is all I need. Opposite him, the colossal ogre sneered at the tiny human scurrying toward its doom. Puny human, it thundered. I'm starving. It lunged its massive hand, sweeping down like a falling boulder to crush our hero. Up above, a certain constellation is thinking the exact same thing. The starving prince is just as famished. He's literally drooling over that juicy ogre. His frantic messages start flooding in, leaving Jong-sun feeling totally exhausted. Chill out, glutton. Just watch, he mutters, finally activating the treasury of greed. He pulls out Camille's dagger technique, a legendary skill forged by the world's most feared mercenary. Only 5 masters on Earth know this art. Though Camille favored dual swords, she perfected this for giant slaying. The moment he initiates the skill, a flood of forbidden knowledge surges directly into Jong-sun's mind. Centuries of mastery click into place. He now wields the blade as if he'd been training for eternity. Jong-sun vanishes, turning into a streak of pure light that instantly severs the ogre's massive wrist. The green-skinned beast just scoffs, thinking the scratch is nothing. You call this a wound, it mocks. Suddenly, its arrogance turns into a blood-curdling scream as a crimson geyser erupts from the severed limb. That's the genius of Camille's blade. It shreds tendons and arteries, slowly dismantling even the largest monsters. He's systematically cutting every vessel, utilizing 15 years of someone else's blood and sweat, with a single click. This feels like a total cheat code, he thinks, before unleashing a brutal, unending barrage of strikes. His attacks become a blur, rupturing every vital point until the ogre can do nothing but howl in agony. The behemoth finally crashes down. Immediately, the system notification chimes in with the victory message. Mission target Thirsty Ogre defeated. Item acquired Ogre's Horn. Your personal contribution points are skyrocketing. For a solo takedown, you've earned a massive 5,000-point bonus. The spoils of war are his. Nearby, the starving prince is practically foaming at the mouth, staring hungrily at the fresh ogre carcass. The constellation's greedy eyes are glued to the prey, but Jong-sun is only interested in the loot. The experience points are kind of mid, he sighs. I wonder if Seola is having any better luck. Meanwhile, Hanchul is locked in a brutal slugfest with another beast. Fat human, you're my dinner. The green monster hurls a devastating haymaker, but Hanchul doesn't flinch. He throws a counterpunch instead. Fist meets fist, unleashing a thunderous shockwave that splits the air. It's a terrifying collision of pure strength. Neither side gives an inch. With that one exchange, Hanchul realizes this monster is no pushover. Strong. But I'm stronger, he smirks. In a flash, he pivots and locks onto the monster's massive arm. Channeling every ounce of power, he executes a perfect shoulder throw, slamming the giant's bulk into the dirt. The impact causes a mini earthquake. Dust settled, Hanchul shoots a quick glance over at Jong-sun. Jong-sun had already finished his kill. Hanchul grinds his teeth, knowing he still has levels to climb. But his own opponent isn't done yet. Despite the brutal slam, the ogre staggers back to its feet. Dangerous human DI. The creature roars, charging forward like an unstoppable avalanche of muscle. Hanchul exhales, focusing his internal energy. He's about to unleash the ancient flow of Tai Chi. Completely oblivious, the ogre closes the distance and swings a fist the size of a wrecking ball. Hanchul flows around the strike like water. Before the monster can react, he finds the perfect opening. He buries a punch deep into its gut. The force is so insane, a shockwave explodes out the back. Watching from the sidelines, Jong-sun decides to let his friend handle things. He needs this experience. He's actually blending my Tai Chi lessons with the war incarnate power gifted by Agarius. The way he adapts his skills on the fly. This guy is built different. He was a beast before the regression, but now he's reaching a whole new level of power. Still, that energy drain is no joke. Jong-sun notices Hanchul's face turning deathly pale. He tosses a high-tier recovery potion. Drink up, Hanchul catches it with a grateful nod. At this pace, we'll turn these thirsty ogres into extinction statistics, he bellows. With spirits high, the duo plunges back into the fray, ready to slaughter every monster in sight. You still holding up? Jong-sun checked. Please, I'm built different, Hanchul smirked, thumping his chest with total swagger. Meanwhile, in the guide control center, an exhausted office drone was absolutely slamming his keyboard in a frantic panic. As the guide adjustment manager, he was losing his mind. Damn it, this entire tutorial session is a complete dumpster fire. How did this happen? A cluster of high-tier potentials appeared simultaneously. There are way too many survivors. Now I have to micromanage every single move. This is straight-up exploitation. Once Chapter 3 wraps up, we need to slash these numbers by half. Satisfied, he leaned back to savor a much-needed cup of joe. Peace lasted only minutes before his desk phone screamed, "Team lead, have you seen the latest live feed?" Startled, the manager roared back into the receiver. "Stop shouting. What's the emergency now?" The subordinate lowered his voice, stammering, "Sir, someone is farming the thirsty ogres. It's those two Jong-sun and Hanchul. They're clearing the map. If this continues, the tutorial phase is going to drag on for way too long." Despite the panic, the team lead didn't look bothered. He wasn't concerned in the slightest. "You're missing the point, you idiot. Did you even bother reading the tutorial manual correctly? When 90% of those starving ogres are wiped out, he spawns." Back on the field, it was exactly as predicted. As the duo decimated 90% of the horde, a colossal titan emerged. Each footstep sent shockwaves through the earth. Its sheer presence was something even Jong-sun hadn't anticipated. "A hidden piece even I missed," Jong-sun muttered. Towering before them stood a monstrous two-headed titan. Meet Craig, the ogre chieftain. No food, I'm starving, I'll devour everything, he bellowed. Craig let out a bone-chilling roar, his faces contorted in fury. The remaining ogres trembled, desperately begging for mercy. Forgive us, Great One, back with Han Chul. He stared at the behemoth, knowing a head-on charge was suicide. Zhang Sun, what's the play? It looks like every small fry on the map just showed up to the party. Even though the situation spiraled out of control, a strange electric thrill began to surge through Zhang Sunday. An unrecorded hidden challenge. This made it even better. Without a second of doubt, he made his declaration. We're taking him down. I'll handle the boss. You mop up the small fry. Zhang Sun ignited his power. He became a blur, shooting forward with wind-shattering speed to weave past the ogres and face Craig. The two ogres rejoiced, thinking their next meal had just delivered itself as an offering for their leader. Fresh meat, one cackled. But before they could chase Zhang Sun, Han Chul intercepted them with a confident grin. Eyes on me, boys. Your opponent is right here, Han Chul declared, his face radiating pure confidence. Zhang Sun wasted 0 words. He closed the distance instantly, unleashing a relentless storm of strikes with his signature daggers. But Craig wasn't a chieftain for nothing. As Zhang Sun's lightning-fast blade aimed for the throat, it was caught by the giant's heavy gauntlet. The attack failed to leave even a single scratch on the metal. Tankier than I thought, Zhang Sun noted. Enraged by the ant before him, Craig's 4 eyes flared crimson. You annoying little gnat, the beast snarled, his massive hands tightening around a jagged, heavy weapon. Our hero realized daggers wouldn't finish this job. He needed something more explosive. He needed magic. Invoking the secrets of the Black Tower, his lightning chain power surged to a whole new level. Simultaneously, the secret of the Black Tower activated again, massively amplifying the destructive force of his ice wave. System notifications flashed as Zhang Sun began weaving lightning and frost together into a devastating magical cocktail. The moment the spell peaked, he unleashed it. Arcs of electricity and jagged ice spikes tore into Craig's hide. The elemental onslaught hammered the beast instantly, flash freezing the hand that gripped his massive axe. But Craig was built differently. With a single flex of his arm, he shattered the ice prison like glass. Is that all? He roared. But Zhang Sun didn't need the ice to kill him, he only needed a distraction. How about this then? Zhang Sun muttered, funneling every drop of his mana into his palms for a finale. He invoked Black Flame, the signature sorcery of the Black Tower, designed to incinerate souls and bodies alike. Through the secret of the Black Tower, the potency of the Black Flame was pushed beyond its limits. Spell complete. Zhang Sun swung his hand, unleashing a tidal wave of dark fire straight at the ogre chieftain. The beast was instantly swallowed by a scorching black vortex, and the savory scent of seared meat filled the air. Crag's agonizing roar shook the air. A mere snack like you dares, I'll pulverize you into the dirt. Fury blazed in Crag's eyes. Despite his gut-wrenching screams, the beast seemed unfazed, its massive body absorbing every blow without a scratch. Seeing this, Zhang Sun's grin faltered. This thing was a literal tank. Got a little trick for a beast like you, he muttered. Just hope it's enough to finish the job. He summoned a rank E goblin longsword from his stash. Just a cheap blade, scavenged from some unlucky player. Stolen from a goblin, the metal still caught the light. Zhang Sun locked his gaze on the polished steel. Risky move using such a low-tier toothpick, Zhang Sun whispered. The monster's stats completely eclipsed this weapon. A dagger only gave it a paper cut, but durability isn't the point. I just need it to survive one strike. Opening his treasury of greed, he started imbuing the blade with the mythic power of Beowulf's legendary sword, the same steel that slew Grendel's mother. A blade that tempers and hardens with every drop of blood spilled. A sinister purple glow engulfed the steel. Instantly cracks spiderwebbed across the blade as it struggled to contain the legendary essence. It was crumbling under the pressure, but Zhang Sun didn't flinch. He only needed it to hold for one final blow. Ahead, the orc chieftain stood completely oblivious to the impending doom.